All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy Football Sunday, and welcome to week 2 of the Pigskin Pregame. I'm your host, Dr. Pigskin. The doctor is in. It is a beautiful Sunday for some NFL football. And I think we got a sneaky good slate here today. There's some interesting games that I'm excited to talk about here. But, as always, you guys know the drill. If you're in here, feel free to say hello in chat. Looks like we got a few people waiting in here already. We got Steph, Caden, and Pearchamp. What's going on, guys? Hope you're having a good weekend. Hope you're having a good Sunday morning. Steph saying he's prepared for the Hawks to go 0-2, and Kubiak's play calling stinks. Well, I tell you what, that's one of those sneaky, interesting games for this Sunday slate. I think Seahawks, Steelers, and there's a little bit to unpack with the Seahawks offense right now. Let's see if maybe we could get some receivers not named JSN the ball. Let's see if we could really get that run game going a little bit. And the Steelers, man, interesting team to watch right now. So that's definitely one of the more intriguing games, I think, for this day's slate of football. But good to see you back in here, Steph. And I am sorry about your Hawks last week, man. That was a pretty tough loss. I was pulling for you guys, and man. Just a tough way to lose, tough way to go out. But Katie with the angry face saying it's 9 o'clock. Well, there you go, right? I was maybe a few seconds late, but I had to sprint back. I was just filling up my water, because I got the double drink set up here. Spoiler alert: there's actually just coffee in here today. I didn't get my chocolate milk in time, so I couldn't make my mocha, if you will. So we're drinking just straight coffee today, like a real adult, sipping on that Big Kirk again, the Kirkland cold brew. Man, I'm telling you, that stuff is good. I can't have too much of it. Like, there have been times where I've had 2 cans of it, and then I'm seeing demons because there is a lot of caffeine in there. But we've got 1 can in here today, so just the perfect amount. We're going to take a few swigs here, and then we're going to get warmed up with some Immaculate Grid. But looks like we got Pearchamp, Garrett in here as well. What's going on, guys? Good to have you in here. Yeah, the Packers are looking pretty good. I stand by what I said when I said, man, if they get Micah Parsons, Mom, pick me up. I'm scared. Goodness gracious, man. That is a scary proposition right now, taking on that team. And I don't know, you might have seen the meme I sent in Discord last week, right? It's like, it's not funny when you're next. As fun as it is watching Micah Parsons wreck shop right now, it's like, dog, at some point that's going to be us, So I'm not necessarily looking forward to that. We'll see if we could steal even 1 game off of y'all right now, but the Packers' best team in the NFL? They just might be. But thanks for asking, Pearchamp and Garrett. I'm doing pretty well right now. I mean, it's football Sunday, right? Not too much I can complain about. Weather's been pretty good. Yeah, I've just been living life, so things have been going pretty well right now, and I'm excited to talk some ball. I really am. But first things first, we got to warm our brains up as we do every single week, right? Trying to get back into the groove of things a little bit here. Okay performance last week, but it is time to play some Immaculate Grid. And let's see if we can improve upon our score from last week. I can't remember my exact rarity score last week. It wasn't the best, but I think we could do a little bit better here today. Let's see what we're working with here. We've got Jags, Dolphins, Jags, Panthers, Jags, Bengals, another all-team one, which I really appreciate. We've got Commanders, Dolphins, Commanders, Panthers, Commanders, Bengals, and then we've got Ravens, Dolphins, Ravens, Panthers, Ravens, Bengals. And obviously, you guys in chat, feel free to just help me out with this too. We'll see what we can come up with here. But we're going to try and get a decent rarity score here. We're going to see if we can do all right. Man, some interesting team mixes too. I feel like there's a few interconference mixes. I don't know. I feel like Jags Panthers, that's such an interesting team combo right there. I have no idea. There's very little obvious answers coming to me right now. And I'm sure if I sat and thought for a little bit more, like okay, we could get Steve Smith right here pretty easily for Panthers Ravens, but I feel like we could do a little bit better than that, right? But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but there doesn't seem to be too many super obvious answers right now for this one. Man, I almost want to put Steve Smith just because I got it and we can lock it in, but I am almost certain that Steve Smith Sr. is going to be the most common one for Ravens Panthers. Jeez Louise, man. Let's see. Ravens Bengals. I mean, you could get Geno Stone. I feel like, he's not like the biggest name ever. Also, my keyboard's being a little weird right now, so we might have to contend with that. See, Geno Stone did go over there pretty recently, but he's not like the biggest name ever. I'm just going to put him 7% for Geno Stone. We'll live with that. He just signed with the Bengals last year. Had a pretty good 2023 with the Ravens. We'll live with 7% though. That's pretty good. I invented the mocha. So true, right? I still need that inventor of the mocha hat or something like that. Let's see. All right, we got one. Commanders Bengals. Man, where's Joao at? I feel like he's always got some great pulls in chat. Maybe he's still waking up. I know he's on a different time zone than us. I think he's like an hour ahead actually. But Commanders Bengals. Geez, dude. I mean, okay, you could get Ryan Fitzpatrick here, right? I feel like that's just such low-hanging fruit, though. Ryan Fitzpatrick, maybe a little bit too easy, but he certainly is an option, right? You don't always necessarily think of him as a Bengal or a Commander. I'm almost tempted to put him on there, but I feel like a lot of people are going to have Ryan Fitzpatrick. So we'll see if we can come up with something better. Jags Bengals. That's one of the actual matchups for today. I like when they have like real life matchups in here. Jags Bengals. Oh man. Dude, why are some of these so hard? I don't know if I'm just like tired. My brain's not all the way there right now, if I'm rusty and I haven't played in a while. But this is like a very difficult grid. I'm just going to take the L and do Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's going to be like 40%, whatever. Yeah, 49%, whatever. We'll take it. It's something. It's definitely not like the first team combo you'd think of for Fitzmagic, but we'll live with that. Like, why do I want to say there's a defensive tackle for Jaguars Panthers? You know, I don't know why. You would think this would be like the perfect square for me. You think that I would know way too much about these two teams and that I'd immediately have something just like that for Jags Panthers, but I really don't. Or like a corner or something. Because let's see, I don't think CJ Henderson ever played for the Panthers, did he? I'm almost tempted to put him. I don't think he did, though. I can't do that. I can't get that. Oh. Dolphins, Jags. Man, I've got very little for this right now. What are you guys feeling? Okay, I am such a merchant for this guy, but whatever. We're going to put him. I'm a Mike Wallace merchant. 7%. We'll live with that, though. But I feel like I put Mike Wallace like every other grid that I play. Just because he low-key did play for a lot of teams. He's a fairly notable player. But you wouldn't necessarily think of like Mike Wallace the Raven, you know? He did sign that big contract with the Dolphins, never really lived up to it. This was like one of the first cases of the Steelers letting their big-time receiver go, and like it actually kind of worked out for them a little bit. Let's see if we can at least get all the squares right. Man, Commanders, Panthers. Commanders, Panthers. Panthers, Ravens is another interesting one. Commanders, Panthers. This is crazy, dude. I suppose I could have got Fitzpatrick for Commanders, Dolphins too. Man. Raheem Mostert didn't play for the Commanders, did he? I don't think so. That's just a total shot in the dark right there. That would have been a lucky guess if I were to put that. I don't think he did. I know he played for a bunch of different teams, but I don't think that would have worked. Man, I'm trying to think if there's like any offensive linemen that have bounced around between these teams. Man, Josh Norman. Ooh, okay, Josh Norman for Commanders Panthers, right? Good pull, Steph. Dude, I'm sure a lot of people thought of that pretty quickly. Yeah, 32%. That's okay, though. Josh Norman. Yeah, that's a good one. Josh Norman. Vinny Testaverde for Panthers Ravens. Yeah, Vinny Testaverde. That's a good one. He's another guy you could get for a lot of teams. You know, you got the Jets, you got the Bucks. Only 9% for Vinny. That's a little surprising. Fun fact. This was in... It's so stupid how, like, I remember this, but yet I still have, like, 4 of these squares blank right now. But Guinness Book of World Records. If you know, you know, right? I feel like a lot of us had that growing up, right? Scholastic Book Fair, book orders, checking it out at the library, all that stuff, right? But the Guinness Book of World Records 2009 edition had a lime green cover. Was my first ever Guinness Book of World Records that I owned. So sick. I read that thing cover to cover so many times. But they had a sports section, right? And there was a record in there for oldest combined age between two starting quarterbacks. And it was when the Panthers played the Packers, and it was Brett Favre versus Vinny Testaverde. And I'm not sure if that record has been broken or not at this point, but I do remember reading that when I was like 9 at the time. Vinny Testaverde, Brett Favre, Packers versus Panthers. It was like 2008 or something. Nah, it would have had to be 07, right? Because it was Favre's last year with the Packers. But oldest starting QB matchup ever, at least at the time. I also remember reading in that book. I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff in there, but for some reason, they had a record in there for person with most war crime convictions, and they had Pol Pot in there. It's this is random. This is a tangent at this point. I don't care. We were talking, somehow Pol Pot came up in conversation with my family the other week, and my sister didn't know who Pol Pot was. And I was like, oh yeah, he was in the Guinness Book of World Records for most war crimes. Anyways, those are the two things I think of when I see the 2009 Guinness Book of World Records. Let's see if we can finish this grid off. Commanders, Dolphins, and it can't be Ryan Fitzpatrick. Jeez, dude, see, and if it was Dolphins, Panthers, you could get Robert Hunt right there, easy, right? Nope. Jags, Bengals, dude. Why is this killing me? Oh my gosh, Reggie Nelson never played for the Jags, did he? He played for the Raiders. I don't think he played for the Jags though. Jay Tufele, I'm not going to lie. I don't know who that is. Jay Tufele for Bengals Jags. I'll take your word for it. Pearchamp also kind of comes in clutch for these. Dude, that's great. I legitimately have no idea who that is. Jay Tufele, 0.3%. That is an unreal poll right there. Jordan Fuller, I'm going to show my casual stripes again, I guess. What teams are we referring to here for Jordan Fuller? Like, I know of Jordan Fuller, but I'm not going to lie. I actually don't know his career arc like that. So I couldn't be like, oh, I know immediately who it is. Jay Tufele. How do you know Jay Tufele? I'm not even sure if I'm saying his name right or not, but that is crazy. Jordan Fuller. I guess we'll see. Steph, would you mind clarifying? I need a little bit of extra help here. Would you mind clarifying which two teams we're talking about here? Okay, Commanders, Dolphins. That makes sense. Jordan Fuller. I was a little scared. I was like, what if it's Dolphins, Jags? And again, you just have to bear with my keyboard here. I don't know why it's acting up all of a sudden. My theory is that ever since I plugged my Stream Deck in, like there's just so much plugged into my computer that it's like freaking out, and that all these other extra things that I'm plugging in. No. Dang it. Welcome, game solved. Let's go. Good to have you in here. Good morning. Marvin Jones Jr. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was right there. See, these are like the easy ones. I feel like these are the layups that I was hitting last year that I'm missing this year. Dude, that's tough. Missing on Jordan Fuller. Let's see. Let's take a look here. Oh, did he not like make the active roster or something like that? Might have been it. He's on the Falcons now. Huh. Dang, that sucks. Oh my gosh, Jalen Ramsey and DJ Chark. Yeah. Okay, well, we'll do DJ Chark and Jalen Ramsey. Yeah. Who else was involved in that trade? Were there any other players that were involved in that trade? Because I love, like, for Dolphins Rams, I love putting Hunter Long because he was the other guy involved in the Jalen Ramsey trade, right? When he went to the Dolphins. We'll just do Jalen Ramsey. I don't care. We're gonna get a rough score here. Yeah, 274. I think we did even worse this time around, but you know what? It's week 2. We're okay. We're just gonna keep the gears grinding, and we're gonna come back even stronger next time around. That's what I'll say. So, golly, dude. Not my best. Not my best though. No, we won't do overtime. Let's see. What were like some of the most common answers? Oh, Odell. Yeah, I could see that. Yep, Steve Smith. Most common there. Oh, yeah. Steve Berlin. I think I got his name right. TJ Husmanzada. Nice. Yeah. DJ Chuck, let's go. That's awesome. Welcome, Ears of the Wolf. Good to have you in here. I love the Clippy profile picture, by the way. That's awesome. Clippy. Clippy was a little before my time, but if you're online enough, you know about Clippy, right? Sam Young was for Jags Dolphins. Mixed his name for Steve Young. Oh, okay. See, you got some obscure pulls into your bag, I gotta say. I don't know. I feel like if we had a grid off, you guys might beat me, honestly. But all right, that was the Immaculate Grid. Decent showing. Could be a little bit better. Could be a little bit worse. What can you do? Right? But now it is time for the fantasy hotline, right? I'm going to be setting my fantasy lineups. We'll take a little check-in with the picks competition. We'll check in with our fantasy league, the Dr. Pigskin Fantasy League, see how things are going there. And yeah, as I always like to say, this is the time where you guys can bang my line, ask me any sort of fantasy lineup questions that you have. I will say this is not much of a victory lap. Maybe this isn't like the biggest dub of all time because the difference was minimal. But I will pat myself on the back because I'd said last week, I've given bad advice at times. But I do remember being asked, Cade Otton or Colston Loveland. And you know what? I did say Colston Loveland. And while Loveland didn't necessarily have the craziest game, he had more than one catch. Or he had more than 0 catches. Like he caught a ball, which which Cade Otton did not. So I'll at least take that, I suppose. But other than that, I don't know. Like some of my advice was probably just, it's just all right, But let's do this. Let's pull up. Let's start with the Dr. Pigskin Fantasy League. How about that? And then let's start with the picks competition first. Actually, we'll pull that up. And then we'll dive into the fantasy leagues, see how everything is doing. But I do remember saying last week that I wanted to check in on the picks competition. And then I just never really got to it. I just completely forgot to do that with all the madness on the Sunday night game. So we're going to take a look now, see how everyone's looking. If I can find it here. Okay, here we go. Games home. I got to say, I'm doing okay so far. I'm doing okay. Pull up the picks competition here. Second place, look at that. Pair Champs in first. We got a nice little race up at the top right now. Pair Champ in first. Then we've got me, and I have 4 nips, whoever that is, tied for second. Look at Christine chilling in third with Laywell. And we got Ryan Asti and Parker. A lot of 12-5 showings right here. And then we got a few people with 11 wins. Game solved at 11-6. We got Kat. We got I Love Josh Allen, who I'm assuming is Goat Kid. And then we've got Jack in 12th. It's a long season. Lot can be done here. Looks like most of us picked the Packers here to start things off on Thursday night. Yep. All right. Well, here you go. Well, we'll get into my picks here in a sec. We'll see how this interesting slate goes. But we're 12 strong this year. Pretty good group right here. And it's anyone's right now. But Pair Champ off with a heater, 14-3 to start off. Okay, I see you. Pair Champ says, I can't believe I didn't listen to my own advice with doing the opposite of what the doc said with starting Jacoby over Keon last week. Oh, that's right. That was one of the things that I got asked about. That is true. And Jacoby Myers played all right, but yeah, Keon Coleman went crazy, dude. Keon Coleman had a game last week, and he, again, when we get into the Sunday slate, right, there's a reason I titled this the most educational week in football. I love week 2 because I feel like we're going to learn a lot this week. We're going to see what's real and what's not, what sort of trends continue. And so I'm ready to be educated in week 2 here. And Keon Coleman is one of those things. I just want to be educated a little bit more. I want to learn a little bit more because I feel like, I don't know, if we see more of what we saw last week, this Bills team becomes fascinating. That's what I'll say about Keon Coleman. But that's the picks competition right there. All right, let's pull up the fantasy leagues. We'll start with the Dr. Pigskin Fantasy League. Let's check in and see how everyone's doing right now. Ooh, 24 for Sad Falcons noises. I'm assuming that's Henry. Oh, yes, Tucker Kraft. Yeah. Oh, crap, I'm playing against him. No, wait, no. I'm going against Tucker Kraft. That's tough. That's really tough. Donnie had Jacobs and Terry McLaurin go on Thursday. Parker got Debo, Debo's been pretty good so far. Gothberg had Daniels. Titletown Terrorist, only 6 points from the Packers D. I suppose they, didn't necessarily get home too much, you know? They didn't necessarily like get a turnover or a ton of sacks, but I mean, like, you know, the fantasy score doesn't necessarily do justice what that defense did on Thursday. Oh, and he's going against Jordan Love, who had a pretty good game. And then Alina's on the bye this week. Oh, that's tough. The bye is tough, but I appreciate you guys bearing with me through that. All right. Let's set our lineups here. I'm in fourth. I barely won week 1. It was kind of a lower scoring game, but you know what? We eked it out. But let's set our lineups here. Week 1. Bear Champ's asking the same question. Jacoby or Keon? Honestly, I don't know. Heat check. Go with Keon. Heat check. I don't know. This Jets game is super interesting, though. I'm going to say heat check. Go with Keon. That's what I'll say. Game Solve says, I was the only one to pick the Bears Monday night. Thought you cooked? Nah. Never pick against us, ever. We're like that. Let's go, baby. Oh, we haven't even talked about that game yet, you know. We'll get into that more Sunday night because we're going to be going live for Falcons-Vikings, which I'm super excited for. We'll get into that game more then because, believe me, I could spend a good 3 to 4 hours talking about the Vikings, and I just might finally get the chance to do that. So let's go. Caden says he just finished a project and I'm starting to make content. Full disclosure, he's going to be shamelessly plugging. Hey, as I always say, right, this is a space where people can plug whatever they're doing, right? I want to build up other creators. I want to create an environment here where people can share what they've made, whether it's football or not. You know, I know Laywell's got his gaming channel going on with his streams. I know Jackie has his channel. He's got some NFL content, some gaming content. Caden, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe you can elaborate more on this, but you're more in the clothes making space and fashion space, right? So maybe you can elaborate on that, but absolutely, dude, this plug away, man. And I'm always plugging my stuff too. So that is pretty exciting. Let's go. Shout out Studio Co. That's what I'll say. Check him out on Instagram, Studio Co. Sam is saying Debo has been better than I expected. Me too, honestly. I wasn't necessarily super high on Debo Samuel going into this year, but he's been moving all right out there so far. Yeah, he's been moving all right. All right, let's check this lineup here. Let's see if there's any changes I want to make. You know, it's funny. I actually almost put in Matthew Golden before the game on Thursday night. I was like, I could see him getting a bucket or two on this Commanders defense. And they did take a few shots downfield with him, and he was winning. Dude, I'm glad I didn't start him. As much as I love Jordan Love, he did kind of sell Golden a little bit. Golden could have had a much bigger game than he actually had. But he's been moving all right out there so far, but I dodged a bullet by not starting him. That could have been tough, but I mean, we'll see how Travis Hunter looks week 2. Maybe they're going to be playing him at corner a little bit more this week, and he didn't have like a crazy day last week. Just like a lot of designer stuff, a couple of screens, nothing too crazy. There was that interception. J.C. Horn made a crazy play. They took one shot downfield to Travis Hunter, and J.C. Horn just made an unbelievable play and picked it off. Maybe the throw could have been a little bit better by Lawrence, but you know, it was a good play by the DB. Obviously I'm going to be rocking with Lamar. Shout out Parker who offered me. It was Caleb Williams and the Colts kicker for Lamar Jackson. I'm like, I'm sorry, bro. That's not going to work, dude. Come on. I was like, dude. I hope Parker's watching this right now. I saw that the other day. I'm like, Parker, I love you, man. Do you really think I'm going to say yes to that? I saw someone in Discord too, like Parker offered him a trade. He's like, no, Harry Penix, you can't get this player. But we'll stick with Bijan, obviously. I think he could have a decent game against the Vikings. Looked pretty good through the air. K9 scares me a little bit. I don't know. He just looked a little bit slower. He's always dealing with some sort of injury, right? Steelers defense weirdly could be a nice get-back game for him, though. I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I saw some stuff on Pittsburgh's D week 1 that's like, I don't know. It's just a little interesting, but I got to stick with him for now. You know, I would start Jordan Mason, but someone just had to take him like right before I was going to, but it's fine. I'm not upset about that. It's not like I can just claim a player before he's drafted, right? That would be pretty unreasonable of me, but otherwise, I would be starting him. Receivers look fine. Again, I was talking about maybe putting in Golden. I won't put in Downs, especially against Denver. And a lot of my backup running backs are just like, guys, I'm just waiting for the backfield to open up a little bit, which, they traded Bigsby. Bashal Tootin is a little more open for him now. Giants defense, I'm giving them one more week, and then, then I might just cut them loose, honestly. We'll see. Again, I was not that disappointed by the Giants defense last week, but the offense is a different story. And Dallas's offense is all right. So that's it for the Dr. Pigskin Fantasy League. No changes there. Let's switch over to bring back the chain gang. Again, this is a 14-teamer. Again, I don't think I'll really make any changes here. I'm just checking over my lineup, making sure everything's okay. Daniel Carlson did miss a kick last week, which is tough, but we'll live with that. We've got Jordan Mason in this league, at least. And I'm telling you, man, this does not do him justice, dude. He's our best runner, straight up. Oh, he's so good, dude. I'm so excited we have him. Do not start the Giants defense against Dallas. See, you're probably right, Sam. You're probably right. I'm probably stupid for this. I'm going to give him one more week, though. I'm not quite ready to cut him loose yet. I mean, honestly, like, I could just pick up Dallas's defense against the Giants, and that might make some sense. I mean, they still got their sacks last week, you know? I don't know. They still got their sacks last week. I'm going to give them one more chance. That's what I'll say. But I'm already a little nervous about my Giants takes that I've been given all off season. And very little of it has to do with the defense, which is kind of a shame. All right, let's check in on my Dynasty leagues now. I got Jordan Love going on Thursday night. He did pretty well. But again, going against Tucker Kraft, just tough, right? Can't escape this guy. I did put in Hollywood Brown at one of my flexes just because, all these receiver injuries for the Chiefs. Hollywood Brown got peppered with targets. It was a very Wan'Dale Robinson stat line, but in a PPR league, that's not bad to have necessarily. Again, I could flirt with putting in Bateman, but he's kind of a big swing. You never know if it's going to be a Bateman day or not for the Ravens offense. Wicks played all right, but I wasn't going to start him or anything. So we'll probably just roll with this. I will say I did have Tucker Kraft, and then I traded him, which, to be fair, I did need a quarterback. If you look at the rest of my roster, I did need that second quarterback, but maybe Loveland isn't quite ready to go out of the box just yet. Maybe I could throw in Ferguson for Loveland. Nah, I'm gonna roll with Loveland one more week though. We'll see, right? Ben Johnson might have a plan for the Lions or something. That's another game I can't wait to get into. All right, final league here. I don't even know who Team Grandpa is. Another well, this is actually a super flex league, but I do feel pretty good about this team. I could get tempted to slide in McCarthy for Kyler, but I'll stick with Kyler against that Panthers defense. Get that Marvin Kyler stack. Yeah, I can't put in Kyle. I'm going to put in Kyle Pitts over Loveland. I'm going to hedge a little bit, especially no Blake Cashman for the Vikings. I'm going to put in Kyle Pitts. I might be screwing myself here, but we're going to take a big swing here with Kyle Pitts. Oh, good question from Jonathan Santiago. Welcome, Jonathan. Good to have you in here. Asking, who would I pick, Ridley, JMO, or Hunter for PPR? That's a great question. As much as I'd love to say Travis Hunter, especially going against the Bengals defense this week, we're just still in like the figuring out, period for his usage right now, right? Feels like this is a very experimental phase for the Jaguars, just kind of figuring out like, okay, what's the best usage for Travis Hunter? How much should we be putting on offense versus defense? Would it shock me if, he only played like 30 snaps on offense today and had like only 4 catches or something? No, not at all. We could see a little bit more of him at corner this week. So I might stay away from Hunter. Ridley or JMO? Oh, see, I don't know that off the top of my head if Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon are healthy or not, because if they're both out, I might lean Jameson Williams. Calvin Ridley going against the Rams, who don't exactly have a great secondary themselves. You know what? I'll say Jameson Williams. I'll say Jameson Williams out of those 3. I do like Jameson Williams a good amount this season. I do think this could be a decent get-right spot for the Lions here. And even if Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon are out there, like, Jameson's one of those guys where, like, 50-yard touchdown, like that gets you your points right there, and he could get it on any given play. So I would probably lean JMO. Good question from Pear Champ. If Hunter gets a pick six, does it count as a touchdown? I actually don't know. I feel like that might be something that you'd have to make by yourself. Like you'd have to go in and customize it. I'm not necessarily sure. I think it depends on the league, if I'm not mistaken. Game Solved is saying yes. Well, I mean, the odds of him actually getting a pick six, I feel like, are pretty slim. That would be pretty epic, though. That would be pretty sick. I mean, it's something that's there at least, right? Like there's the possibility of it, but I wouldn't necessarily put him in counting on that, if that makes sense. Like he might get one this season if we're lucky, but if he does get his hands on a pick, like there's a good chance he's housing that thing. So I would probably go with Jameson Williams though. But Jonathan also saying he's debating putting Pitts in over Hawkinson. I actually don't hate that. I will say, for what it's worth, and maybe this is famous last words, and like I've got burned by this guy so many times, but Kyle Pitts actually looked all right out there last week. I honestly thought, I mean, Darnell Mooney is back, but even then, like it's not like this is the deepest Atlanta receiver room ever. And I thought he moved pretty well. He looked the healthiest that he's looked in a long time. And Penix seems to really trust him. They made a point to get him the ball. And I cannot emphasize this enough. And this is something I'm going to be talking about a lot tonight when I'm live for Vikings Falcons. But no Blake Cashman for the Vikings. Legitimately massive deal with how much is on his plate in coverage, covering the middle part of the field with the defense that we run with Brian Flores, right? It's usually guys blitzing up front, and then we've got a lot of deep safeties and deep defensive backs putting an umbrella on the deep shots. So you can blitz, bring pressure, while also taking away deep shots. Very often, that means we've got one dude that's kind of covering that intermediate part of the field, and that's Blake Cashman. And we can do that and get away with it because he's very, very good at it. He's not quite Fred Warner. Like, I'm not going to say he's as good as Fred Warner. Of course not. But honestly, he's not like terribly far off. He means so much to this Vikings defense, and being without him is going to be massive. It could be a big game for Kyle Pitts. It could be a game where he's targeted like 9 times and, he scores in the red zone or something like that. So I actually don't hate putting in Pitts over Hawkinson, even though I really like Hawkinson and I think he's the better player. It could be a big Kyle Pitts game today. I could really see that happening. So I might lean that. There's a reason I put him in one of my leagues, like he scares me a little bit tonight as a Vikings fan, I will say. Game Solved asking, would I start DJ Moore, Stephon Diggs, or Jacoby Myers for PPR? Ooh. I might go DJ Moore. And I was not the biggest on DJ Moore going into the season, but I do feel like the Bears are going to go out there and pass the ball a lot today. DJ Moore also gets in the backfield some. He might get a carry or two. I'm going to go DJ Moore. That's a bit of a risk right there, but we'll say DJ Moore. Welcome, Wolf. Good to have you in here. Saying Browns lose this one in the next 3. Man, we'll see. I mean, we'll get to the Browns game in a sec here as we transition into the Sunday slate. But if you're into that kind of thing, let's just say I saw the line for this game. Goodness gracious. But he is unfortunately designed in a lab to burn you in fantasy. So we'll see if that manifests itself or not. But Jonathan also has Coleman. Would I start him over the other 3? He kind of wanted to wait another week to see if he gets close to the same usage. Nah, that's fair. If I had to rank them, I'd say JMO, and then Coleman, and then Hunter, and then Ridley last, if I had to rank those 4. But I get that because Joe Brady and the Bills, like they do want to run the ball when possible. It really took until like the 4th quarter when they were down multiple scores to really open things up and let Josh sling it. We'll see how this game goes, though. We'll see if they get into a script where they have to throw the ball a little bit. That's what I'm kind of excited for this Bills-Jets game. That's what I'll say. But one final comment here before we get into the Sunday slate, the meat and potatoes of this show. A lot of good stuff to talk about, a lot of good games to get into. But we got Sam saying that Blake Cashman is the core cog for Flores and a genuinely sick player. Yeah, I mean, you put it perfectly, right? He is the guy that makes things go. I would not call him our best player on defense. He might be number 2, though. I might only take Grenard over him. And I think it's just very telling that last season, Blake Cashman missed 3 games. Vikings go 1-2 in those games. And it was a lot of over the middle concepts, these dig routes and these crossers that killed us. You think about our loss against the Lions in October. You think about our Thursday night loss against the Rams, right? It was just a lot of the same stuff. And I like to think Eric Wilson will be a little bit better than what we had out there last year, right? I mean, we had like Camus, Grugier, Hill out there for a little bit. And honestly, I was pretty impressed with what I saw from Eric Wilson filling in a pinch on Monday night. Like, I don't think he's going to be a liability, but just unless we completely change the way we call our defense, like as much as I might like Eric Wilson, like that is just a lot on his plate, dude. That is just a lot to ask out of him. And I feel like for the next month, that's going to be an area that a lot of teams are targeting against us. I mean, the script is out. The playbook is out from what the Rams and Lions did to us last year without Cashman. I don't know. That is something to monitor tonight. So welcome, Cuthbert, saying don't play the armpit. I don't know, Matt. Again, like he'll probably burn me. Right. It's fair to say he probably will burn me. That's just what he does. I think he could have I'm not saying he's going to explode. I could see him going for like 5 catches and 60 yards, though. That's a good 11 points from your tight end right there. I think that's very much on the menu. That's what I'll say. But, all right, here we go. Let's get into the Sunday slate. We're going to start off. We're going to try and go in chronological order here. We're going to start off with kind of a banger, honestly. This is a game I'm pretty fired up for. I gotta fix this. Again, it always kills the hype moments and aura. Whatever. You guys know the drill at this point. We're gonna start off with a banger here. Good game from a couple years ago. If you remember that Thursday night football game, Trevor Lawrence's rookie year. That was like the first time he really showed a glimpse of what he might be able to be. How about Jaguars Bengals? We have a chance for maybe some fireworks here today. 2 of the more exciting young offenses in football. Jaguars coming off a great win week 1. Vibes are high. This feels like the best coached Jaguars team that we've seen in a minute. I don't want to put too much stock into it, right? Because it was week 1, but this is what I'm talking about. This is an educational week. All right, Jacksonville, you looked competent, you looked organized, you looked well coached on both sides of the ball. Pass rush looked pretty good. Lawrence wasn't perfect, but honestly, I thought he did play a pretty good game. Do it again. Can you get the run game going? Do it again, right? ETN goes for 140. Not saying he needs to do that again, but, can you run the ball at like 5 yards a pop again? Can you get a consistent run game going? Can you keep these creative play designs going? You know what? BTJ did not have a great game through the air, but I love the play called. Hit him on an end around, get him a rushing touchdown, get him going. Oh, yeah. I love it, right? I liked what I saw from the Jaguars here in week 1. Do it again. You're going on the road against a team with playoff aspirations, against one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, against a defense where there are some matchups to be had. Maybe this is the week where they open it up a little bit. I could see them dropping back 30 times today. BTJ and Travis Hunter versus this Bengals secondary is a big mismatch. And the Jaguars offensive line honestly looked pretty solid last week. Do it again. Do it against Trey Hendrickson now. Can you do it again? I'm pretty fired up for the Jaguars in this one. As for the Bengals, they're coming off their annual slow start in September, right? But the big difference is this time around, they actually won. They actually eked it out against the Browns. It was an ugly game for the most part. The offense couldn't really get going. The defense held up their end of the bargain, but it's just another slow start for the offense. And you just wonder, like, how the heck does this happen? Because they changed things up this year. They actually played their guys in the preseason. They're trying to shake off rust. And yet here we are again. It's week 1 and Jamar Chase has like 2 catches. T. Higgins has like 3 catches. And the offense is just like plodding along a little bit. The run game wasn't great. The line was all right. The most promising thing, honestly, I think from Cincinnati last week was that Shamar Stewart actually played a pretty good game. Shamar Stewart actually looked pretty solid out there. I'm picking the Jaguars. I picked the Jaguars in this game. I think they're going to get it done here. I don't know. I think this team honestly matches up pretty well with Cincinnati. Welcome, Sebastian, by the way. Good to have you in here. Hey, this is a very good wide receiver duo going against a pretty porous secondary. They eked one out against the Browns. Now, things aren't necessarily perfect week to week, right? I'm not saying the Bengals are necessarily going to go out there and play at the same level that they did last week against Cleveland. But if they do have another kind of stinker of a game like that, this Jaguars team feels a lot better than Cleveland. There are matchups to be had through the air. I could see this being a game where Trevor Lawrence goes out there and rips it. I really want to see it happen. I really want to see this passing game get going. I think that there are matchups to be had in the trenches on defense. Josh Hines-Allen played a great game last week. I think it was 7 pressures. Didn't get home for a sack, but he had 7 pressures and like a 30% pass rush win rate. He can get his against this Bengals offensive line. Joe Burrow, as great of a quarterback as he is, does have a tendency to take a few too many sacks, hold on to the ball a little bit. This Jags pass rush could maybe get a few sacks and just like get off the field on a big 3rd and 5 or something, right? Let's go. Thank you, Sam. I'm with you too, man. Call me crazy. Cincinnati is like 3.5 point favorites here. They're at home. I get it. And I'm not saying this is like gonna like doom the Bengals or anything. Like I still think they could figure things out. I don't know. I actually kind of like Jacksonville in this one. I know I'm falling for it again, right? Give me the ribbon, fell for it again award, whatever. I'm falling for the trap again. I don't know, man. I like this Jaguars offense. I honestly kind of like their defense a decent amount. It's going to be very fascinating to see how much Travis Hunter plays corner in this one, right? Because when he's out there, he's probably going to be on either Chase or Higgins, and that's just a fantastic matchup to watch. Second career game in the NFL, Travis Hunter going up against the best of the best. Yeah, we'll see how he holds up, right? Big question. You have to imagine, like, you know, as much as I say, oh, the Jags receivers are going to get theirs on the Bengals. I mean, you could say the same thing about the Bengals on the Jags receivers. Absolutely. But I think I just trust the Jaguars front a little bit more. And I don't know. I like what I've seen so far from the Jags. It's 1 week. This might come back to burn me. I'm taking the underdogs here. I'm taking the Jaguars in a good one. I'm going to say 31-27. Jags win. Big road win for the Jaguars. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Oh, this is a show me something game right here for Trevor Lawrence, right? Again, honestly, I'll be real with you. I thought he played pretty good last week, but like, yeah, he left some stuff on the table. He certainly could have been a little bit better. Here you go, man. It's like, what, year 5 for him now? Another new coaching staff. Can we please just finally iron out all these little kinks, just these few hiccups, right? And again, like, oh, whatever. I'll make like a million excuses for him. You know, there was a weather delay last week too, so that kind of maybe threw things for a loop. But I don't know, man. Again, most educational week in football. What are we going to learn here? Just how good could this Jaguars team potentially be? If the Jaguars are going to be a surprise playoff team, like I had them tabbed going into the season, these are the type of games that they're going to have to win, where they're maybe like slight underdogs, but they're going to have to go out there and like take care of business. This is not necessarily a game you can drop if you're Jacksonville, if you're trying to make a playoff push. So dangerous territory for me right now. I know I'm pushing my chips in on the Jags again. Sebastian saying he wasn't being serious when he told me to put my chips in. Dude, I held the line for a long time. I really did, but it got to me. It ultimately got to me. We're about to find out, man. We're going to learn some stuff this week. That's what I'll say. But I'm excited for it. I'm glad to see Sam is standing with the Jags. Game solved is saying just win, man. I want the offense to look good, but I would just like a victory. Totally understandable, right? And there is a world where maybe it is a bit more of a low-scoring game and the defense takes you home. But there are multiple avenues to winning. I could see them winning a shootout, but I could also see them winning a bit of a lower-scoring affair and just having their pass rush take over. These two teams are a little similar in a lot of ways, right? Good quarterback, good receivers, good pass rushers. Dare I say the Jags are just a little bit deeper. I don't know. And Liam Cohen showed me a little bit week 1. I'm always like, let's see how these offensive coordinators turned coaches fare when they've got these extra responsibilities. Can they be just as good? It's 1 week. It was the Panthers, whatever. I don't know. Everything just looked smooth and polished. And that's not something you could say about the Doug Peterson Jaguars for a long time. So we'll see, man. We'll see. But I'm fired up. Welcome, Gabe, to the stream. Good to have you in here. Oh, you're still sick? That's too bad, man. That's a bummer. Can I sing you a lullaby? All right, here we go. Here's my best rendition of a lullaby. Y'all might want to plug your ears for this. I'm not a great singer by any means, right? There's a reason I'm only a quarter Filipino. But we're going to try our best. Go to sleep, go to sleep, la 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 la. I'm so sorry, y'all. But hopefully that helped you out there. Let's go, Caden. Plug in his Instagram right there, Studioko on Instagram. Oh yeah, go check that out. He does some pretty cool stuff that's beyond my comprehension. Let's just say I almost failed facts in 8th grade because I can't sew to save my life. You had to sew a button to a piece of paper. I couldn't do it. What he's doing over there is a little more advanced than that. So, and who knows? Maybe one day, if the chips fall right, there might be a potential collab for some Dr. Pigskin merch. But that'll be probably like a little bit more down the line. That's what I'll say. We're not going to get too ahead of ourselves. But yeah, go ahead and check that out too. Pretty exciting stuff over there. Mozart. Next up out of Atlanta, Cliff Note. Oh, brother. All right, let's get to the next game. Welcome, Mono, by the way. Oh, thank you. Let's go. Thank you, Gabe. Appreciate the super chat. Let's go. All right. You know what? I'll take a little bit of singing humiliation for $10. That's awesome. Appreciate it, Gabe. As always. Let's go. Mono saying Zach Taylor seems to be good at reacting to problems, but he rarely seems to be anticipatory. I made that word up. I think that's why the Bengals always start poorly. That's a great take right there, honestly. I've never really heard that perspective before, but that's a great take. Shout out Mono. We also got anything for clicks in here as well. Welcome back. Triple eagle emojis. Every year people jump out the window with their predictions. Wait till week 4 to see what's real. Nah, that's fair, right? Like week 1, it can be so easy to overreact just because it's been so long since you've seen football, right? But sometimes there are some real week 1 overreactions that are actually real, you know? That's what I'll say. All right, I'm gonna plug my thing real quick, and then we're gonna go. Doc.com.blog, my new website. Some of you that might have missed that, I started my own website, trying to post one thing a week on there, right? Speaking of overreactions, and it's in my link tree, it's in the link in my bio, whatever. Excuse me, but my most recent piece on there was week 1 overreactions that are actually worth caring about. So we're gonna plug that real quick. All right, on to the next game. We spent a lot of time on that game, but I can't say I'm too surprised, honestly. It is the Jaguars after all, and I just can't help myself with that stupid team. No, you're absolutely right? Like you have to react to what you see. And you just get so excited seeing football again. Like you have to, but as I say in my article, again, doc.com.blog, that's doc.com spelt out and then .blog. Sometimes the week 1 overreactions that you see are actually real. There are cases where you see something week 1, you're like, holy crap, what if this is real? And then it is. It's all about sifting through what's real and what's not, you know? That's the beauty of it right here. And even though, like, I'm sure up to week 4 is a better sample size, that's about a quarter of the season. Week 2, the big thing is just do it again, right? We get to learn a little bit more. I guess you're right. The Saints did score big back-to-back weeks. But some of that, too, is just like their offensive line got banged up. I'm not saying they would have averaged 40 a game that season, but that did have a big impact on it, too. But we'll see. Welcome, Henry. Thanks for tuning in, as always. Happy Sunday to you as well. How are you feeling about Sunday night? We're going to be going live for that game. Vikings-Falcons. I know we briefly talked about that last week. How are you feeling about Sunday night? I'm a tad nervous, I'm not going to lie. Well, we'll fully get into it here when we go live at 8 o'clock, but I'm a little nervous. But speaking of nervous, let's talk about this next game. Because the team of Dr. Pigskin takes the field, and I'm not going to lie, after what I saw week 1, I am a little more nervous now about some of the irresponsible things I was saying about the New York Giants all offseason. And again, I've got grade A copium for the Giants, right? Honestly, I really don't think the defense was that bad. They gave up 21 points, but the defense certainly played well enough to win. I actually really liked what I saw from the pass rush. You know what? Yeah, Drew Phillips was coming down hard on those screens. He did make a few nice plays in the backfield, right? Abdul Carter did look sick. The pass rush did look sick. Lord have mercy, dude. This offense is lost at sea. Russ is horrible. I'm sorry. Russ is horrible. And what's especially scary, I think, like, it's one thing that Russ is bad and like maybe you want to call for Jackson Dart and put him in, right? Dude, this offensive line might be the worst in the NFL with Andrew Thomas not out there. I thought, like, oh, they could skate by for a little bit. They could get it to Malik Neighbors. Dude, they got absolutely manhandled up front last week. They didn't have a shot. And Andrew Thomas is doubtful for today, too, right? He's dealing with a foot injury. As much as I love him, it seems like he's always dealing with something. Yeah, I'm going to be real honest with you, man. I love the Giants still. I still love the defense. And I think that, like, even with how bad their offense is, the defense can at least, like, keep them in a surprising amount of games. I'm going to be real with you, man. They ain't winning this game. On the road against Dallas. Dallas has a little bit of extra rest after that Thursday night game last week, right? They're fired up. Dak Prescott looked pretty good. The defense looked surprisingly good, even without Micah Parsons. And this is just one of those obvious get-right spots right here for this Dallas front. Donovan Ezeraku is a guy that I loved coming out of the draft, right? You know what? Having only a bag and not, like, freakish physical tools, yeah, that's not going to win you matchups against Lane Johnson or Jordan Mailata. Against this Giants offensive line, no, it might. Bag work alone might be able to, like, get him a sack or two, honestly. I stand by my take that if the Giants scored like 22 to 23 a game, they would win a shocking amount of games. I'm not sure that they could do that, to be honest with you. I don't really have a ton of faith that they could do that. I feel like Russ is on a pretty short leash right now, but I at least understand, like, okay, you throw Dart out there. What really changes, dude? Dart would die behind this offensive line right now. There's no way you can just throw him in there and expect things to be that much better. Like, maybe he's a little bit better of a runner than Russ is, but I mean, no, there's just no way, right? You just can't do that, man. So, yeah, Dallas by 35. I don't know about Dallas by 35 necessarily, but I don't think Dak Prescott's going to go out there and throw for like 300 yards. But the Cowboys offensive line is pretty solid. I don't think that, like, the Giants pass rush can take over in this game. And, like, seriously, that's probably really, like, the only way they can win games right now, just with the state that this offense is in, with no Andrew Thomas and with Russ looking how he does. Like, you could target Malik Neighbors 12 times a game. It doesn't really matter. I mean, he got his targets last week and it just did not matter. So I'll go Dallas with a comfortable, like, 10-point win here. We'll say Dallas 24, Giants 14. I don't know. I don't have a ton of faith in the Giants right now. I'm already kind of regretting some of the stuff that I've said, but you know what? You live and you learn, I suppose. You live and you learn. I don't have too much to say about this game. I'll at least be watching it. If the Giants do somehow win, though, I'm going to be annoying again. Fair warning. I will be a little annoyed again if the Giants find a way to win this game. So we'll see. We'll see. But Mono's saying the Giants have never beaten Dak Prescott, not once. I'm sensing a little bit of sarcasm or facetiousness there, right? Because I very vividly remember Dak Prescott's rookie year. They were a team that beat him quite a bit, actually. They swept him. Those are like two of the only 3 losses that the Cowboys suffered that year. Giants scored 2 TDs. Maybe that's a little bold, maybe. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. They did look dangerous. Yeah, but chat's rocking with Dallas. Dallas by 56, by 22, by 35. Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty easy pick. I will admit. I don't know, man. New York, man. Brian Daboll, offensive line, Russ, everyone. You got to show me something real quick or I'm going to be abandoning ship here. I bought a stupid amount of stocks and I'm already figuring out how do I sell these stocks. The curse of the team of Dr. Pigskin strikes again. I guess that's what I get for stabbing the Bucks in the back. So maybe a little bit of Tampa Bay vindication there. Oh, geez. Henry, talking about the Sunday night game, says, I think the Falcons have the ability to beat anyone, but I have very little faith that they'll hold up against the Vikings defense. Nah, that's fair. And I think even with some of the injuries that we have, like, ideally in a perfect world still, like, this pass rush should be able to get home against Penix once or twice, right? I feel a little bit better about them against the run. That was a very positive thing that I saw week 1. I was like, oh, actually, I honestly kind of see why we traded Harrison Phillips now. I get it. Maybe these young guys are ready. How about Levi Drake Rodriguez playing a good game? It's like, okay, all right, I stand corrected. I was like, yeah, we've got a lot of young guys, but are we sure they're good? Kwesi might have cooked by trading Harrison Phillips. So again, we'll fully dive into that tonight, but I think even with some of the injuries you're dealing with right now, we should win. But it's going to be a very fascinating challenge for Brian Flores working without some of his top guys on defense. Not just that, some of his most versatile guys. So we'll see. We'll see. Gabe asking if I only had another team of Dr. Pigskin that I chose earlier in the year. I know. Again, Tampa Bay vindication. This is going to be the curse of the Bucs all season. Whatever. I'll eat my crow. I'll take my beating for it. Lions are probably going to win. Giants are probably going to win 2 games. I'm not saying the Lions are winning 2 games. We're not going down that road. Oh, man. Yeah, I stay putting curses on teams. Welcome, Joao. Good to have you in here. Saying it's so sad to see Russ like this. He was such a baller with the Seahawks. Yeah, man. I mean, the game is just passing him by, right? I think there's a lot of things that are at play here. I think the biggest thing is he's just older and he hasn't really adapted his play style, right? He still plays like he's 24 years old, but the athleticism is just not there anymore. And when he was at his best, not saying this is necessarily a bad thing, but his game was really built on like running around and chucking it up and like scrambles. It's not like he was a crazy in structure quarterback, even at his best, right? So that's one thing. He hasn't really adapted his play style and his athleticism has left him. So his game hasn't aged well. But the other thing I think really is, and I talked about this a lot in my, how one quarter caused the NFL scoring decline, right? If you look at the way that defenses have changed over the past few years, how they've really shifted and how too high has been in vogue and less blitzing, less man coverage, more zone coverage. Everything that defenses have done has been to take away the big play, right? And we've seen the quarterbacks that have really adapted from previous eras to this era. Look at Matthew Stafford, right? Stafford, I know I praise him all the time, but he's changed his game. Stafford is a bit more of a West Coast type of quarterback now, right? He runs a Sean McVay offense. Stafford has lost a little bit of his athleticism. He's still got the arm talent, but he works from the pocket. He works the middle of the field, all that stuff. Same with Tom Brady. His game aged well because he could do that kind of stuff. Russ's play style, I don't want to say it was figured out, but with the way we've seen defenses evolved, it has really discouraged quarterbacks from playing the way that Russell Wilson plays. And I think that's another factor. So I think just age, decline and all that, but also just the league that we play in now is very different from 2017. Mahomes is another example. Look at how Mahomes' game has changed, right? That's a consequence of not only no Tyreek Hill, but just defenses won't let him play that way anymore. So I'm glad you brought that up. I wish that I hit that a little bit more in that video, to be honest, because I do think Russ is the ultimate poster child for this. But yeah, it's a multitude of factors, but I don't know. Could you really be starting him at this point? Man, I don't know. Ryan Nasty might have put a curse on him. Fair enough. Fair point. Oh, brother. All right, we'll get to our next game here in a sec. It is an interesting one. Some little foreshadowing, a little bit of a Freudian slip there. You might know what game is up next based off a team that I mentioned a little bit earlier. But Gabe asking if I can name 10 players that are in the NFL right now that played for the University of Michigan. I'll get a big treat if I do. All right, let's do this off the dome. We've got J.J. McCarthy. We've got Josh Metellus. We've got Blake Corum. We've got Roman Wilson. We've got Rashawn Gary. We've got Dax Hill. Oh boy, why is it already getting a little tough, Loki? Colston Loveland. Oh man, other Michigan guys. Will Johnson. That's 8. We're at 8 right now. I can't say Donovan Edwards anymore because he got cut. Nico Collins is 9. And one more. Oh my gosh, one more Michigan guy. I'm so close. Aiden Hutchinson, easy. All right, boom, 10 right there. Let's go. Light work. Not really. I tripped up a few times there, but all right. Yeah, the signs were there for Russ. Yeah, and that finger injury too. That was kind of weird, So yeah. All right. Next game. Very, very interesting game. The people in the desert don't necessarily think so. It's a bigger spread, if you will, right? Again, I'm not advocating for any sort of activities like that. I'm just pointing out it's a nice little vibe check. And I say that, we'll get to the pigskin parlay in a sec, but you guys know what I mean. Very interesting game, though. NFC North matchup. How about this? Bears versus Lions. Ben Johnson coming home. Both these teams with their backs against the wall, 0-1. You've all heard the stat about how, statistically speaking, if you start 0-2, your odds of making the playoffs are very slim. It's not impossible, but it's a hard thing to do, especially in a tough division. Dare I say this is kind of like a must-win game for both these teams here. Very, very fascinating matchup. Lions coming off a bludgeoning in Lambeau week 1 against the Packers, and the Bears with yet another Bears meltdown. You can change the coaching staff, you can change this and change that, but good Lord Almighty, they melted down again. Very interesting game. And the way I'm talking right now, some of you guys might be ready for, I don't know, a spicy take or not. Welcome, mile marker, by the way. Love the lion emoji. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I mentioned the Lions in my week 1 overreactions column up on doc.com. And I think it's fair to say it is fair to be a little bit worried about what we saw from the Lions week 1, right? And John Morton is one thing. Losing the OC is one thing. I'm going to be slightly annoying and say I really think ultimately at the end of the day, what has me more concerned about Detroit is not the change in OC, but it's the changes up front, the offensive line. I don't know that I've ever seen a Dan Campbell Lions team get beat up front the way they did last week. I'm sorry, man. Tate Ratledge, go Dogs. Good Lord, that man was lost out there. Christian Mahogany didn't have a great game, which kind of surprised me. Mahogany was one of the new guys I actually liked coming into the season, and he played a little bit last year, and I kind of liked what I saw from him. He was getting beat, right? Sewell left on an island. He was getting beat. Decker got beat, right? Everything just gets reshuffled now when you don't have an all-world center that you can leave on an island or do these insane blocks in the run game, right? The run game couldn't get going, this and that and all that. And people are saying, Sebastian's saying he desperately needs to show something today, right? Big statement game for John Morton. And it stinks, too, when you see Tanner Engstrand cooking over in New York with the Jets. I'm taking the Lions in this one. I am taking the Lions. I know I've been Mr. Doom and Gloom on the Lions, and it's still, I don't know. They're a team I've got my eye on. If this game gets close, things could get interesting. But honestly, I do think this is a pretty good get-right spot for the Lions right here. They're back at home. Ford Field is going to be rocking. This crowd is going to be up and ready for Ben Johnson's return. And I still think at the end of the day, man, this Lions team is too talented to fail still. I mean, okay, depending on your definition of fail, but you know what I mean, right? This Lions team is still too good to be a disaster, I know maybe don't jinx, right? No, that's fair, but I don't know, man. I think they could get the offense going a little bit more. I will say I was actually pretty impressed with what I saw from Jared Goff week 1, all things considered. The environment around him wasn't the greatest. Going up against a sick-looking defense, that's another thing too, right? Respectfully, the Bears are not the Packers defense, right? There is no Micah Parsons to contend with. That's just going to make things a lot easier. And even though I like Dennis Allen a good amount as a defensive coordinator, this Bears defense just ain't the Packers defense. There's levels to this, right? So I think this could be a good get-right spot for the Lions on offense here. Maybe they get the run game going, or maybe they open it up and they let Goff throw a little bit. Because I really do think, honestly, we know Goff and who he is at this point, right? He has his limitations. He's not a crazy creator. If there's pressure, he's either throwing the ball or getting sacked, right? For better or worse. And it's been for better for a lot of times because the Lions have had sick protection around him. But I don't know. He made good decisions. I thought he was still pretty smart with the football. He did have that pick, but that was just a crazy play by Micah Parsons to get quick pressure. There's matchups to be had. These Lions receivers versus the Bears secondary. I'm going to bank on the Lions here. Henry, I know you and I talked last week about maybe Dan Campbell gets them right more than Matt LaFleur did in week 1. Didn't quite happen. I don't know, man. I'm doubling down. I think Dan Campbell gets them right this week. I think this is going to be the hungriest and meanest we've seen the Lions in a while. They have a lot of talent on defense. I'd like to see the pass rush get going a little bit more here in week 2. Week 1, the Lions as a team only mustered 8 pressures, which I believe was tied for the fewest by any team in the NFL, right? Hutch had 3 pressures, and that was about it. There was just nothing up front. They could not get anything going. No sacks for the Lions either, right? Very quiet game. Let's see if the Lions can get things going a little bit. I think they're going to have a little bit more success up front at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, and that's going to help a long ways. So I am going to go with the Lions here. Interesting stuff for the Bears here. Interesting stuff for the Bears. You know, Henry is saying, honestly, he thought that people were a little too hard on Caleb on Monday. Maybe it's because you have him in Dynasty. No, I think that's fair. You know, watching the game live, right? I mean, first of all, I was just like tweaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, first half, I don't know, it was a little scary, right? But watching the game from the broadcast angle, my thoughts were, man, like Caleb is missing some throws, and I'm thinking, geez Louise, like either he's like not seeing stuff that is open downfield because he's scrambling a lot and then he's just like checking it down. Like either there's stuff open downfield and Caleb's not seeing it and he's not being the in-structure quarterback that Ben Johnson wants him to be, or the structure isn't necessarily good, guys aren't getting open, and Flores actually finally got his against Ben Johnson for once. And this morning when I was setting up, I actually went back and I watched the all 22 of Caleb's dropbacks against the Vikings, right? Hadn't gone to it this week, finally had some time this morning. And I will say, I think it was more the latter. I don't know. Guys weren't necessarily getting open. And it's week 1, right? You're learning a new offensive system. I'm not saying, oh, this means Ben Johnson sucks, guys. I told you, you know. But I will say, I think after watching the all 22, it is pretty understandable why Caleb was running around as much as he was. Because guys were getting in the backfield in a hurry. Vikings pass rush looked pretty good. He had to run around to not get killed. And it wasn't very often that there were guys open downfield. Now, it is tough that like the 1 or 2 times that they were, he missed them, right? Like, man, he did have a few rough misses, but I don't think he played poorly. I really don't. You would still like to see more. You'd like to see him be better, but I think just as much of that is on coaching too, right? A lot of weird penalties, a lot of false starts. Like you could totally tell that it was just a lot for this team to take in week 1 under a new offensive system. So you like to think if you're the Bears, like some of those kinks are going to get ironed out a little bit more as things go on, but not today, I don't think. Not today against the Lions at home. Tough matchup. Revenge factor, absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to go with Detroit here. We'll say Lions win. We'll say 27-20, but it's like a comfortable 7-point win. Also appreciate it, Gabe. Let's go. Thanks for the big tree. That's awesome. Next VC installment. Hey, yo, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Let's go, Arthur. Oh, that's awesome. But I will have my eye on this game. This will be one of the games that I have up on one of my screens here in the 1 o'clock window. I am pretty excited for this one, but I do think the Lions will take care of business here. So Gabe's asking, if the Lions lose, how much do I sound the alarm? You start to get a little worried about, like, all of a sudden it's an uphill battle to put yourself back in a playoff spot, right? Again, this is a must-win game for both these teams here. I like to think the Lions will take care of business and they're going to get the job done. And if you get to 1-1, you feel a lot better. Like, oh, we survived a disaster avalanche week 1, and now all of a sudden we're back to 500. Starting 0-2, being buried dead last in a very tough division, you lose your home opener. And especially like if they lose in the manner of which they lost last week, where they just can't get the run game going and they're just getting no pressure on the defensive line, right? Then I think you do start to sound the alarm, because there are some weaknesses. There's slight weaknesses, but you can poke a few holes in this team. But it's like, man, if it's another week where they just can't get after the quarterback, if Caleb doesn't get sacked, or if he only gets sacked once, then you start to think, man, why didn't we resign Zadarius Smith? You know, we're really counting on Aiden Hutchinson, who's coming off a gruesome injury, to carry our pass rush. Maybe in hindsight, that wasn't the best decision. So I think if they lose a barn burner, it's like a close game, you know, like that still sucks. And like being 0-2 in general, like there'll be some alarms going off. But if they lose the line of scrimmage again, then I think you really start to get concerned, because that's what this entire team is built on right here. So Mile marker is saying Monty will want it. Yeah, I could see him getting a few carries here today. I know he and Gibbs kind of split time last week, but it's a revenge game for Monty too. So I like that. But Henry saying, even though Ben Johnson didn't do anything wrong leaving Detroit, dude, I will say I'm with you on that. Like, I don't know. It's very interesting seeing like the reaction to when Ben Johnson left. There seemed to be this narrative that he phoned it in and he's the reason that they lost in the divisional round. It's like, yeah, Ben Johnson forced his quarterback to throw 4 interceptions, you know? Like, come on. Ben Johnson was very obviously cooking in that game. They still scored 30 points, but we'll see. Sebastian saying, what do I think about Caleb sideline leadership talk? I didn't see a whole lot of that, to be honest. I mean, I know there's always been a narrative around Caleb and his leadership and lack thereof. I will say, man, if you want to talk about like a fan base ready to flay someone alive right now, I will say, for as much as the Lions fans are up in arms about John Morton, I say this as someone that's like way too online, but I don't know if you guys know the Twitter user Double Doink, Big Bears fan. He had a pretty insane crash out on Monday night and is not necessarily the biggest Caleb Williams fan right now. That's what I'll say. So it's a tough city to play in, man. Chicago. Everything is under a microscope, but yeah. No, I guess he stayed in the division. No, and I don't like if you're a Lions fan, like I don't blame you for booing the guy, right? Like go on and like play it up, right? But I do not agree with this whole he phoned it in and like he wasn't trying in the playoffs once he got his head coaching interviews or whatever. But I could see like go into the division, like maybe rubs a little salt in the wound. But oh yeah, no, Aaron Glenn is my guy, dude. Hey, you might remember I made a little take earlier this offseason where I was like, I think there's one Lions coordinator who's going to be a better head coach than the other. After week 1, even though they lost, I kind of like what the New York Jets are building right now. I'm excited to talk about this Jets-Bills game here in a sec, but how long does a player have to be on a team for it to still be a revenge game? I mean, it depends on like what terms you leave on, right? Like, I would say for the most part, like it really fades away after the first matchup unless like there's some real bad blood or there's a real messy split, but it's just kind of fun to say revenge game, right? Let's say Monty scores a touchdown today. It's a revenge touchdown, even if he's not like, I hate the Bears when he's like taking the ball in or something, It's still fun to say that. It's a fun little trope, but Caleb did, yeah. I mean, his sack avoidance seemed to be a little bit better, right? That was a big problem for him last year. We'll see how he does here. One more question here, and then we're going to get to this next game. But I love the conversation about Bears-Lions, man. That is an exciting one. Next one's an all right game, but good question from Henry. Was I surprised that Jameson Williams got that big extension? Not really, to be honest with you. And again, I say this as a Vikings fan, and I know there's been like this holy war between who's better, Jameson Williams versus Jordan Addison. I get it. Again, I'm Mr. The cap is always going up. In a few years, that deal's going to look good. NFL's got that new TV deal coming up. I believe it's in 2029, right? Like when the new TV deal comes in, the cap is going to explode. And the smart teams right now are prepared for that. If you look at the way the Eagles are doing business right now, it's not a coincidence that all their big extensions and contracts expire around that time. It's not a coincidence that Jameson Williams' big contract expires around that time. I don't know. I think it's good business, right? You want to lock up your guys, keep them happy. Like in a vacuum, is it a little silly that he's getting paid more than Nico Collins? Absolutely, right? Like I think 10 times out of 10, I'd take Nico over JMO. But I do think he's a pretty good player. I mean, he had 1,000 yards last year, right? He's a great big play threat. The Lions desperately need that number 2 guy, that running mate besides St. Brown. He offers them that dimension of explosiveness that like you don't necessarily get from Amon-Ra Laporta. He's a very important player to the team. Even if it's a slight overpay, I get it. Keep your guy happy. He's a good player. Keep him in the building. And again, the cap is always going up. So I was a little surprised, but not really. I think it was a good deal by the Lions to just get it done. Whatever. That's 2029's problem now, right? You'll have plenty of money to play with by then. So, but all right. There's a Morton game plan take that I'm dodging. All right, well, we'll get to that, and then we'll go to the next game. How about that? Oh, he has a concern with John Morton and his stubbornness. Last week, it felt like he was calling his system instead of leaning into the player's strengths. Talking about it with Russ, but the worst thing you can do in the NFL is be stubborn. Yeah. And, I don't know. We'll see. It's not as simple as just calling the same plays that Ben Johnson did now because of the personnel changes, too. But Nate Tice pointed out, I like the thing that he pointed out is like first play of the game, right? It's a run play, and you're running behind Sam Laporta as the lead blocker. And Laporta's great, but he's not necessarily a great blocker. He's maybe not the guy that you want to be running behind. And so it's just little stuff like that you might need to iron out. But all right, coffee, and then we're going to get into our next game, Rams-Titans. Man, I like to think the Rams will take care of business in this one, right? Hey, the Rams, Matthew Stafford, looked pretty good. I don't know how many of you guys were too tapped into Rams-Texans last week. It was 14-9. The final score wasn't the craziest, and the stat line wasn't the craziest, but I promise you, man, if you get the chance, you should go back and watch Stafford in that game. Matthew Stafford is very much indeed healthy right now. Holy crap, dude. Holy crap, he was slinging the pigskin. Oh, baby, he had some of the sickest throws of the week. Puka Nacua went off. He had like 10 for 133 or something like that. Devontae Adams looked great on the X. I don't know, man. Again, maybe a fragile structure in which this offense is built because at any moment, yeah, a guy could get hurt and then things get scary. And already, right, I'm going to take a look at the injury report right now. I will say already we've got a few guys banged up front for the Rams, right? Steve Avila, their guard, pretty good player, doubtful for this one. That is tough, going up against Jeffrey Simmons, right? Although there's no Tavondre Sweat either for the Titans, but that is tough. That is something worth noting. I don't know. Here's what I'll say. Last week could have been an absolute disaster for the Rams. It really could have. If Stafford was washed, if the offensive line really wasn't that great, if the offense wasn't that great, it could have very easily been like a 9-6 game going up against a great Houston Texans defense with a killer pass rush, great corners, well coached. Last week could have easily been a game that the Rams lost and looked ugly in. And again, I cannot emphasize this enough. Maybe I'm a Rams homer or whatever, but that offense looked really good. I don't care that they scored 14 points. The offense looked really, really good. I think this could be a week where they go out and hang like 30 on the Titans, honestly. The Titans' defense isn't bad, I will say, and they turned in a pretty good performance against the Broncos last week. I really like their DC, Denard Wilson, was an assistant under Mike McDonald with the Ravens, right? I honestly think he's done a pretty good job, and the Titans were surprisingly good on defense last year. But they are without Tavondre Sweat. That is a big loss. It all starts up front with Tavondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons. Losing Sweat is a big deal. He's got an ankle. He's out. He might be back next week. No JC Latham either. Man, yeah, I'm kind of with you too, Mono, right? Vibes are off with Brian Callahan. Don't think he'll last in Tennessee. It was not a very good showing from him last week. I honestly thought Cam Ward played pretty well, but it's just a lot of organizational stuff, right? I mean, he doesn't know the rules. He's saying in his press conference, like, oh, I didn't challenge that one catch near halftime because, like, one knee doesn't equal 2 feet, when it in fact does equal 2 feet. He's like loudly saying in the press conference pretty much like, oh yeah, I know this, but he didn't know the rules, you know? The offense just looked discombobulated. They're throwing screen passes, but like no one's blocking anyone, right? Cam Ward did as much as he could, but there's just not a lot working right now structurally. Yeah, I'm with you, honestly. Like, you know, he got his mulligan year last year, was just like, let's just figure out what works, and we won't take a quarterback. And then they got the first overall pick, and now they've got their quarterback, and it just hasn't looked great so far, to be honest. And it's tough because like this is a Titans team that low-key is almost like kind of trying to win. They've spent a lot in free agency. They spent a lot to beef up the offensive line. And even though I think Denver's defense is certainly a little bit better than the Rams, we saw the Rams pass rush look unbelievable last week. And it looked kind of as good as advertised. And again, you can spend a lot of money on Dan Moore and tell yourself, like, we're paying a tax to raise the floor and it's going to be all right. Man, I don't know, man. I'm praying for Cam Ward in this one, honestly. I think the Rams defensive line can take care of business on that side of the ball. And then on offense, I mean, It's not like the Titans have a crazy secondary either. I mean, this is a pretty big mismatch, these Rams receivers versus this Titans secondary, right? Snead, post-injury, don't trust him a whole lot, to be honest with you, right? I just think it would not shock me if Stafford went out there and threw for like 300 yards today. I think this could be a game where we kind of turn our heads and like, whoa, the Rams. Like, okay, like last week was the warm-up. This week is the movie, baby. I'm taking the Rams in this one. I feel pretty good about LA here. They're on the road. They're without one of their linemen, but this is the Sean McVay Rams. They got this, man. I will say some of these takes already into the season I don't feel great about. I feel pretty good about the Rams winning the West, honestly. I don't know. It's always been the Rams. It will always be the Rams. So we'll go Rams 28, Titans 17. How about that? You could have tortured that confession out of me talking about Callahan. Yeah, it's just little stuff like that, right? Which are just tough looks, like just not knowing the rules, disorganization on offense, vibes don't seem great right now. He was always kind of an interesting hire, right? He came over from Zach Taylor's Bengals, and it's not like the Bengals were like, this mecca for offensive innovation, right? If anything, that's been something that people have kind of harped on them for, is like they don't use motion, they don't get under center, and like sure, some of that's just how Burrow likes to play, but it's very interesting to hire the OC of an offense where we've always kind of said like they just play we're better than you ball. They're not like out scheming you. They just have Burrow chasing Higgins, and that's how they win, and we're seeing a lot of problems early. So Caden is saying they should have never let Vrabel go. Yeah, I mean, it is tough, right? Like, Vrabel did such a good job there laying the foundation, and, the players seem to like him by all accounts. I can almost understand it. Like, it was a very surprising firing at the time. I can almost understand why. They just felt like they were in a weird spot. They needed to get out of a ditch a little bit. I just don't know that the guy they picked was very good, to be honest with you. And funny you bring up Vrabel, because we're actually about to get into the New England Patriots taking on the Dolphins here in a sec, which Mike Vrabel had a very interesting week 1 too, and the Patriots had a very interesting week 1 too. But this could be another opportunity. It's like, let's learn something. How much of these two teams' performances last week is real? Someone's got to win this game, right? So we'll get into Patriots Dolphins in a sec. That's another one of those interesting games. But Steph saying should have fired Callahan with Carthon and brought in a whole new front office. Yeah, I mean, it's just they keep like firing their GMs and stuff. It's been weird. It's been really weird. But Titans have been weird. I feel like that's pretty easy take to have. Thank you. I'm your Mecca. Let's go. All right. Sebastian saying Ward didn't seem to make any mistakes last week. Always a good sign with rookies. Yeah, I thought his process was good, right? Just even if the play wasn't always there, guys were dropping passes. It's nice to see. It's nice to understand what's going through his mind when watching him. Like, okay, I see why you threw the ball there. I see why you thought that was going to be there. I see why you chose to run there. Everything made sense from him so far. I'm actually pretty encouraged from what I've seen from Cam Ward, but there's a whole lot else you got to figure out beyond just quarterback, man. There's a lot else you got to take care of if you're the Titans, but you might have at least checked off that box at least. So, but let's talk about Patriots Dolphins. Two teams coming off of kind of frustrating loss. Well, kind of. The Dolphins was just flat out ugly, right? I mean, the Dolphins were like the biggest loser of week 1, I would say. Man alive. Talk about a team that looks lost at sea. Getting spanked by the Daniel Jones-led Colts. My goodness. Only scored a touchdown like at the very end in garbage time, right? Mustered only 8 points against the Colts. Offense looks discombobulated. And again, I'm going to keep saying it until things change for one way or another, but this is very much an offense that looks like it's been figured out a little bit, right? There's only so much you could spam of the outside zone runs and the motion and Tyreek Hill's dig routes, and it's a very limited offense, and they don't have any counter punches. The Patriots, meanwhile, honestly, kind of came out flat. I was a little disappointed by the Pats week 1, and I know I picked against them, right? They had no Christian Gonzalez. The Raiders are a pretty good team in their own right. But man, that offense, honestly, was not super impressive, right? Travion Henderson, everyone's fantasy goat, was only like 5 carries for 27 yards. They couldn't get the ground game going. The offensive line still struggled a good amount. Will Campbell kind of got his welcome to the NFL moment, right? Going up against Max Crosby. And some of these concerns that admittedly I kind of brushed aside with the Patriots reared their ugly head week one. Not a lot of receiver talent, rough offensive line, and maybe just a little bit too much projection when looking at their pass rush, right? Maybe. Ugh, I don't know, right? And it was in the rain and kind of an ugly game, and I thought Drake May played all right. Here's what I'll say. Steph is saying Pats. Call me. I might actually take the Dolphins in this one. I could see the Dolphins bouncing back. Mike McCarthy said last week, well, the good thing about it is you feel like it can't really get any worse, right? Maybe he's kind of right, though. I'm still not super high on the Dolphins, and it's funny because I picked them to finish last in the division. I still think that could happen, but it's back in Miami. For what it's worth, the offense looked weird. I honestly think a lot of it was on Tua. Not all of it. Some of it was just like structurally they couldn't get the run game going, and then they fell behind, and that took away the run game, right? But like Tua had some bad interceptions, some bad turnovers on open plays, right? Waddle honestly looked pretty good out there. Hill looked all right. Did I say Mike McCarthy? I meant Mike McDaniel. Oopsies. Oh well. I meant Mike McDaniel. And I am a little worried about this Pats offensive line. Maybe I put a little bit too much stock into Will Campbell coming and fixing things and Garrett Bradbury coming in and, that has to be better, right? I don't know. This, for what it's worth, the Dolphins defensive front did not look good week one, but honestly, like they could still get the Pats, right? They could still get the Pats. Is Christian Gonzalez playing? That's honestly a big question for this one. Christian Gonzalez is out again. Yeah, I'm going Dolphins here. This is not necessarily like a big vote of confidence for the Dolphins going forward. I still think there's a chance that this could be like a team picking top 7 in the draft. I still think there's a chance they've got a new head coach coming into next season. But this is a Patriots team that's got a lot to figure out right now. They do have some exploitable weaknesses. It is at home. I feel like a lot of people might be riding just like, man, the Dolphins are going to be a total disaster, and they could. I am going to go with the Dolphins at home here, honestly. There still is a decent amount of talent, right? They've still got guys up front. Phillips and Sealer could really cause some problems for this line. I mean, especially with no Christian Gonzalez. Waddle and Hill is still a lot to contend with. Can they get the running game going, though? That is the one thing where it's like, even more so than the passing game, I feel like the Dolphins' running game has really been figured out at this point. You might remember a few years ago, right? Like, if you look at any sort of rushing metric, it could be yards per carry, or EPA, success rate, any of that stuff. Dolphins are always near the top. Achane was averaging like 9 yards a carry. Mostert had like 18 touchdowns. The running game was sick. Those days honestly feel long gone at this point. Like, Achane's a fine fantasy player, and he's an all right player in real life, but man, I mean, Henry, you know about this more than almost anyone, right? It's the same problem as the Falcons, but like 10 times worse. They can't run up the middle. They can only run to the outside. And eventually teams just figure that out, I don't know if the Patriots are quite as equipped to figure that out as like some of these other teams, right? Patriots, it feels like a little bit more of their defensive talent is like on the back end and the secondary and like Christian Barmore up the middle. But they don't have like crazy guys on the edge or anything like that. The passing game can still, the passing game honestly looked all right when Tua came back out there last season, but I still could this be a 6-win team? Yeah, but also this could be one of their 6 wins right here. Henry is saying there's been too much consensus that the Dolphins are terrible. Yeah, they might just be bad instead of terrible. So I am going to pick the Dolphins in this one. We'll say kind of an ugly one. We'll say 19-17 or something like that. Maybe a bit of a slop fest here, but Dolphins will eke this one out. Sebastian saying Tua looked like his brain was being held together by duct tape. Yeah. I suppose they did fare pretty well against Ashton Genty. That's fair. Yeah. And I guess the Raiders offensive line, they got theirs against the Raiders offensive line, which is maybe not the greatest unit either. That's fair. I'll give you that, Joao. They did play pretty well against Genty. I don't know. I could see Waddle having a big game in this one, honestly. I'm still just, I think the Dolphins were on record saying today, we're not trading Tyreek. It's we'll see. We'll see in October how you're looking and how Tyreek is doing, if he's going to be freaking out on the sideline or not still. I stand by my take that I think this could be the year that that Jalen Waddle becomes the Dolphins' leading receiver, you know? Interesting stat that I saw last week. It's been over a year since Tyreek Hill's had a 30-yard catch. That's what I'll say. So there's some stuff to figure out for the Dolphins, but we'll give them the win here today. Next game. We've still got a lot of games left. That's okay. We're having a good time here. Very interesting 1 o'clock slate game right here. Honestly, this is kind of a sicko matchup right here, but I'm actually kind of excited for this one. This is a game that's really captured my imagination. This is a game I'm actually going to be watching a good amount of right here. Oh, baby. I'm excited for this game. Let's just do this. Wee-oo, wee-oo. Upset alert, upset alert. Wee-oo, wee-oo. Upset alert, upset alert. The Saints taking on the 49ers in the Superdome. 49ers, death, taxes, and the 49ers are injured. No Brock Purdy, no George Kittle. 49ers they got the win. It was a tough, ugly game week 1, but they did get a big road divisional win. Kyle Shanahan finally gets his dream man. He finally gets to play with Mac Jones of all people. I'm taking the Saints. I'm taking the Saints in an upset for this one. Banged up 49ers going into the Superdome. I'm taking the Saints. You know what? I thought they looked decent last week against the Cardinals. I really thought they looked decent. Spencer Rattler, dare I say he played an all right game. Dare I say the defense was all right. Now, we'll see if Chris Olave, I don't even know if he's playing or not. He might end up in the medical tent again because I feel like I've seen that tweet about how like every time the Saints are in red zone, Chris Olave's in the medical tent. Like that's just evergreen, right? Saints are a little banged up themselves. I'm going to take New Orleans in this one. I don't know. I thought their defense played all right, and I think they might be able to get a little bit going on offense. I'm still just not the biggest believer in this iteration of the 49ers, and especially now without Brock Purdy and George Kittle. This could be very uphill sledding for their offense. Here's what I'll say. It would take like the ultimate Kyle Shanahan masterclass here for the 49ers to get things going on offense. I really think so, right? I've had my qualms with Brock Purdy in the past. You know, I usually come in on like, oh, he's fine. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say he's bad and like it's only the system. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you I think that like he's one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the NFL either. I think he's fine, right? But the one thing that you could really hang your hat on with Brock Purdy under center, as opposed to like Jimmy Garoppolo or some of these other like Shanahan system QBs, right? Like Mac Jones, for example. Brock Purdy gave you that extra dimension of escapability. Brock Purdy can scramble. Brock Purdy can throw on the run. When things break down a little bit, Brock Purdy can make something happen on his own accord. Mac Jones, not so much necessarily, right? Mac Jones is very Kirkian. He's very Kirkian in the fact that, like, he's a little bit of a statue, right? This is a 49ers offensive line that's not necessarily the greatest, not necessarily a good unit. I know the Saints defense isn't world beaters. Maybe Demon Brandon Staley has something for me today. I could see Mac Jones getting hit around a little bit. They're without their security blanket now and George Kittle. Still no Brandon Ayuk. McCaffrey looked all right last week. I don't know. Give me the Saints in this one. Could you see Spencer Rattler hitting like a crazy baloney 60-yarder that changes the game or something like that? I don't know. I really think that like these injuries for the 49ers are a big deal for a team that's already pretty top heavy, that's already pretty reliant on having like all this high-end talent. You remove another guy from the equation now. Again, if they can pull this one off and if the offense can look good, man, you got to give Kyle his flowers because this is one of his toughest assignments yet. But we've got Mac Jones behind a questionable offensive line with so-so receiver play and an all right Christian McCaffrey. Would it shock you if they scored like 16 points today? I don't know. But appreciate you tuning in, Sebastian. As always, thank you for tuning in. And thank you for my musical talents compliment. I'll take that. Welcome, Laywell, too. Good to have you in here. Let's go. Hey, no worries, right? Just woke up. Well, I hope you're having a nice, refreshing Sunday morning. We're going to get to your Chiefs here in a little bit. Chiefs versus Eagles. And I'm excited to talk about that one. We haven't really talked a lot of Chiefs yet this year. So we'll get to talk some Chiefs, kind of talk about what happened last Friday, and then take a look at how they're looking for this week against the Eagles. But I don't know, man. I know, like, I guess I picked the Jags over the Bengals, and that's another upset too. This is my big upset right here. I'm taking the Saints over the 49ers in a slop fest. I'll say 21-17. He did. Now Shanahan wanted Mac Jones, and we're gonna see if he'll finally get to fulfill his fantasy of like the ultimate puppet at quarterback, right? Like at the end of the day, like that's what these guys want. Like Shanahan especially. Like he just wants a robot that's gonna run the play as designed, and like he gets his dopamine hits by getting like a 9-yard dig route on 3rd and 8. You know, he's like, yes, it was just as I drew it up. You know, we're gonna see if he can actually do that or not. You know. No, that's Mac Jones ain't winning. I suppose that's fair, especially coming from a Jags fan. But I don't know. I'm taking the Saints on this one. This is another game that like I'm actually going to be watching a weird amount of this one because I'm just really interested to see how this 49ers offense looks. All this upheaval, all this turnover. It's going to be a big adjustment to. I mean, Purdy just got ruled out not that long ago. It's not like they've had the whole week to prepare for this. You know, this is like a fairly new development. So I don't know. I am sounding a few alarms with the 49ers right now, or the 49 IRs. I like that. 49ers. That's awesome. Joao hopes that I'm right. Hey, we'll see. I'm usually like 50-50 with this kind of stuff, so we'll see. But all right, couple more 1 o'clock games here. Let's get into another one that really excites me. I mean, you're still at the point of the season where like pretty much any game can excite you, right? And that's what I love about early season NFL. Again, you're just taking in all this new information. There's just so much new stuff to learn. And you can find a reason to get excited about just about any team. We're going to take a swig of water, and then we're going to dive into low-key one of the games of the week right here. One that's got a big smile on my face. Oh, I'm excited for this one. Take your guesses in chat while I take a swig of water here. What game do you think has got me grinning ear to ear like an idiot? One that, I don't know, it might not be the craziest game in the world, but there might be a little spice. There might be a little something here. How about another divisional game? How about a battle in the East? How about Bills-Jets? Let's go. Bills-Jets, low-key a great game. In New York, I'm telling you, I am buying all the Jets stock in the world right now. You know what? They might not necessarily go out and win this game. They might not. Good guess by Steph, though. I'm a little excited for that one, too. The Jets might not win like 9 games this year or something, but I have full buy-in for how this organization is being run right now. I'm all in on Aaron Glenn and this coaching staff. I'm all in on this front office. I'm all in on this freaking offensive line and them mashing people on the ground game. I'm all in on Justin Fields running an offense like this, looking like a real big boy NFL quarterback. And it's a very interesting matchup, this Jets team, which again, I think has a fantastic offensive line, even without AVT. Great backfield, great running quarterback. This could be like legitimately probably one of like the 7 best rushing offenses in football this year. And they're going up against the Bills defense that for as great as they've been, they've had a lot of great success. They've really struggled against the run. And we saw that again last night. They really struggled, or not last night, last week, you know what I mean. They had some problems with Derrick Henry. They had some problems with Lamar Jackson. And now obviously, as much as I love like Fields in this backfield on the line, there's levels to this. The Jets run game is obviously not the Ravens, right? And you don't quite have to respect the threat of the pass with the Jets as much as you do with the Ravens. But you can kind of target those safeties a little bit. You can kind of target those linebackers a little bit. There's also no Ed Oliver for the Jets too, I believe. Double checking the injury report right now. Yep, Ed Oliver ruled out with an ankle. Huge development. Ed played a fantastic game last week. He's out now. A couple of guys questionable as well. The Jets can really make this game interesting if they keep it in a run script, right? I've said that about a few teams now this season already. But if they can avoid going down big early, if they can keep it within like a 1-score game around like halftime, just keep hanging around. They can keep that run game on the menu. Things could get interesting. If they could get to like 25 rushing attempts, things could get interesting. I actually really liked what I saw from Fields in the passing game too. Again, I think a lot of it starts up front. Jets pass protection was phenomenal last week against the Steelers. You're going up against TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Cam Hayward, Keanu Benton. The Jets just kicked their teeth in. Seriously, one of the most impressive performances from week 1. I am unreasonably high on this Jets offensive line. They could get theirs again this week against the Bills. I really think so. If you give Fields a clean pocket, that kind of mitigates, some of the bad sacks that he can take. If you just give him a little bit more time, he can hit the downfield shots to Garrett Wilson. We've seen Fields play buddy ball with his top receiver before, right? DJ Moore had the best season of his career with Fields at quarterback. Like, there are pieces there. I could see the Jets scoring like 24 points in this game and making it interesting. The problem is, on the other side, you've got the Buffalo Bills, the reigning MVP, Josh Allen, coming off an absolute heater. Shoot, the Jets could score 24, and I like their defense enough, but like, the Bills could score 30 any given week, I am going to pick the Bills in this one. I feel like that's a safe pick. This could be an interesting game at halftime. This could be like a tied game at halftime or something like that. I am going to trust the Bills to get it done, though. But I am going to be like excitedly watching this Jets running game all season long, buying my Jets stock now. I love the direction that this team is headed in. I think they're going to be fun. They're going to be competitive and feisty. They might be a few teams' trap game this year. I don't know if it's going to be this week, though, necessarily. I think the Jets could put up some points, but can they outscore the Bills, though? That's really the big thing. Can they outscore the Bills? And the Bills are built to like win games on the ground, too. I'll go with the Bills in this one, but it could be an interesting one. So I am pretty fired up for that game, if you can't tell. Laywell saying I might have lost in our league, but you have Josh Allen and another one, and he carried him to victory last week. Let's go. Hey, good player to have. Hey, good game to you too. Little through the camera handshake right there. Well played, man. Yeah, that was a good matchup right there. I appreciate that. We'll see. We might be doing this again in the playoffs or something, but. Laywell was really hoping the Jets would have pulled off that win last week versus the Steelers. He likes Justin Fields. Me too, man. This Jets team just seems so likable right now. Let's talk about the Steelers. Let's get to Steelers-Seahawks next. How about that? I know we've got some Seahawks fans watching here. Let's talk about Steelers versus Seahawks. Man, okay. How much of this Aaron Rodgers resurgence is real? Week 1, I gotta say, Rodgers looked pretty good out there. 4 passing touchdowns. The offense was running smoothly. And I got to tip my cap to both of the guys that I was kind of worried about if they would be button heads or not, right? Aaron Rodgers and Arthur Smith. I was a little worried, like, are they going to be button heads here? Can they compromise? These two guys want to do different things schematically. Week 1, I got to say, it looked like a pretty good compromise. It looked a lot more like the 2020 and 2021 Rodgers-Matt LaFleur marriage, where each guy kind of got elements of what they want to do, and it worked really well, right? We saw some Jonnu Smith screens. We saw some motion. We saw at least a healthy amount of trying the run game, right? We saw a lot of stuff set up for yards after the catch. And Rodgers still got a few shots down the sideline, but for the most part, it looked like Aaron Rodgers running an Arthur Smith offense. And I think if you're the Steelers, that's got to be very, very promising. The offensive line is still a question mark. And I am a little worried about that defense because it's just an older unit. Some guys might be on the back end of their career. And again, like their defense, just so much of it is built on having like an all-world front. Now the defensive front might just merely be good, instead of like top 3. So I'm a little worried about that. But Ramsey looked pretty good. The Seahawks. Steph is picking the Steelers here. And I think I have to agree with you. I picked the Steelers in the picks competition. I am leaning Pittsburgh at home. I do wonder, Kubiak stinks right now, right? The OC did it again. And the offense did look pretty rough. Again, just week 1, common trope. To quote Aaron Rodgers, like I said last week, most teams have a lot of bad film out there week 1, especially if you're looking at a team with a new OC, right? Just a lot to adjust to. I will say, though, man, like I was saying at the top of the show, you got to figure out a way to get someone other than JSN the ball in the passing game, right? JSN had like 13 targets, and the next was Cooper Kupp with 3, and then everyone else had 1. That's no way to play. As much as I love JSN, that's no way to run a passing game, right? And it's a very limited receiving core, but you got to do something. You got to figure out something else. Running game didn't really get going week 1 either, right? Man, can you get it's weird to say that like maybe they could get right against the Steelers defense, but they might be able to a little bit, right? This is a team where maybe you can run to the outside a little bit. Oh, I don't know though. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Man, I am going to lean Pittsburgh here. I don't know. This just feels like I don't feel great about either team in this, like picking either team, I should say. I don't feel great about picking either team because I could totally see Seahawks defense like having a pretty good game. And I really don't think there's any way Rodgers goes out there and like hangs 4 touchdowns again, right? And we've seen in the past, like talking about guys from like different eras seeing changes, right? We have seen the sort of Mike McDonald brand of defense get to Rodgers a little bit with the simulated pressures and the disguised looks and coverage, right? If you think back to last year, Jets played the Seahawks. Remember, Leonard Williams had a pick 6 on Rodgers. Like, it's not impossible to think that like McDonald could really cook up in this game. Seahawks defense is a monster performance against a questionable Steelers offensive line. Oh, I think this is going to be kind of a sloppy game, to be honest with you. I'm going to go Steelers 19, Seahawks 16, but I don't really feel great about I don't feel great about picking it. This game feels like a coin toss to me. This could be a close game. I picked Steelers in the picks competition. I'll stick with the Steelers here, but I'm a little scared. I could see Seattle locking in a little bit on offense. I honestly think if like either team gets to 21 points, they could win. 21 might be enough to win that game. That's what I'll say. Oh, I don't know though. I don't know. That's an interesting one that I've got my eye on. But welcome, John, to the stream. Good to have you in here. Asking for a Bucks-Texans prediction. I tell you what, we'll hit that here at the end. I know we've got the Monday night doubleheader, right? We might do a quick speed round of the Monday night predictions, and then we might dive into that more tonight. That's what I'll say, because I'll be going live for Vikings-Falcons, and I hope to see you guys in there. We might briefly hit the Monday night games, but we might preview them during like halftime or something for the Sunday night game as well, especially since I've done the grid already too. I've decided I don't think I'll be going live for Raiders Chargers as much as I'd love to. I don't know that I could do a 10 p.m. kickoff, to be honest with you. I said game time decision. I won't count on it. As fun as that would have been, I think that might be a bit much for me. So we'll see, but I doubt it. But Laywell saying it was a scary good performance out of Grandpa Rogers last week. Maybe Unc still got it just a little bit. Maybe just a little bit. He's saying, to quote a Seahawks buddy, I don't even want to watch the Hawks right now. We have injuries on our defense. Everyone on the secondary is either injured or sucks. And what happened to Reek Woolen? Yeah, Reek Woolen did have kind of a rough game, right? He was in perfect position to end the game there. I don't know how he didn't pick that pass off. Man, it is tough. It's still good defense, though, and they're well coached. But it is frustrating. It is very frustrating. So Joao saying Purdy's mobility kind of hid the Seahawks defensive line performance. A-Rod will be a sitting duck, and I think he'll suffer. I like that take right there. I could see the Seahawks getting a few sacks. Boya Mafe is a guy that's really starting to come along too. He's kind of got my attention a little bit. Good defensive line for Seattle. Good defense in general for Seattle, even with some of the injuries that they have. Oh, you're almost making me second guess my pick now. We'll see. Welcome, Ted, too. Ted's saying Pittsburgh wins because of a big defensive play. That sounds about right for Mike Tomlin's Steelers. Yeah, that sounds about right. John is watching from Ireland, so no chance he'll be here for Vikings-Falcons, unfortunately. Understandable. Well, hey, I appreciate you tuning in from Ireland. And because you threw that in there, all right, I'll throw you a bone. We'll hit Bucks-Texans for you. How about that? Since you're spending your time in Ireland right now watching me, yeah, we'll do that real quick. But we've got to finish up the rest of the Sunday slate first. I'm going to be real with you, man. There's not a whole lot that I have to say about this game, to be completely honest with you. Unless the Ravens have another stupid loss in them, right? I mean, I was saying on Sunday night during the Ravens-Bills stream, like, Ravens always seem to find a way to have one or two dumb losses a year. I don't know. That might have been last week, I guess, right? They have like had a weird habit of just like tripping up against the Browns every once in a while. Dog, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Wolf. The Browns ain't winning this game. I think you know that. I mean, you're saying the Browns win like or lose their next few. It's tough because the Browns honestly played well enough to win last week. The defense looked great. Some of the rookies looked pretty good, right? Mason Graham looked pretty good. Myles Garrett obviously was great. I mean, he's not a rookie, but you know. Harold Fannin looked like a fun little piece of this offense right here. How about Sampson getting the ball some? He looked pretty good. Like there's some promising young talent here. And going into the season, I think it's fair to say for the Browns, like, who are the keepers? Who are the guys worth keeping around? You might have found a few of them, but I still stand by my take. Even though that loss was just killer last week, right? I still think Baltimore could very well be the best team in the NFL. The defense was a slight disappointment last week, blowing another big lead, and then the Henry fumble. I mean, just a wild game. But we also saw this offense look like the greatest thing ever for like 3.5 quarters. And as much as I might like the Browns defense to be sneaky tough, I don't know, man. I guess I don't know if I gave a final score prediction for some of the previous games. Ravens 38. Nah, 38's too much. Ravens 31. Browns 14. This might be a snoozer. We'll see. I'm always down for some chaos, though, but I don't think we needed to spend too much time on that game, to be real with you. I struggle to see the Browns winning that one, and I feel like most people would agree. Next game, honestly, might be the game of the week. Unironically, I say that not necessarily because it's like the best or sexiest matchup, but this, man, if you want to talk about week 2 being the most educational week in football, you want to talk about a game where we're going to learn a lot. You want to talk about a game that I will be unreasonably locked in on. I might be tempted to put this one up on the big screen. We're starting off the 4 o'clock slate with a banger. I'm actually giddy for this game. The Battle of the Horses, Broncos versus Colts. What a game. Honestly, there's a reason I'm wearing the Elway shirt right now, right? We'll change it to the Vikings shirt later tonight, or Vikings jersey. Broncos versus Colts. The education bowl right here, and that we are about to learn a lot. You want to talk about go do it again? You know what? The vision might have been realized with Shane Steichen's offense. Daniel Jones at quarterback looking pretty good. It's not just the Minshew RPO screen stuff, hitting a few shots downfield. The running game's going all right. The offensive line held up pretty well even after losing 2 of their starters on the interior. Lou Anarumo cooking on defense. Go do it again. Go do it again, Colts. Can you do it again? Can Daniel Jones turn in another good game? Is Daniel Jones the next NFL Cinderella story, right? Indiana Jones? You're going up against maybe the best defense in the NFL now in Denver. And I tell you what, Denver had their struggles week 1. They could have easily lost that game to the Titans. You can't pin it on the defense, though. The defense certainly held up their end of the bargain, right? Talking about the Colts offensive line holding up surprisingly well against a tough-looking Dolphins defensive front. All right. Now you got to do it against Zach Allen. Now you got to do it against Nick Bonitto and Jonathan Cooper and John Franklin Myers, right? It's a whole different beast. Now you got to beat Pat Surtain through the air and Riley Moss and Jahdae Barron. It's a whole different beast, right? How about the schematic matchup when the Broncos are on offense and the Colts are on defense? How about the schematic matchup of Lou Anarumo versus Sean Payton? Great battle of minds right there. Can Bo Nix get right? Tough game for Bo Nix week 1. I've always had my Bo Nix opinions, but I think we can all agree he's better than what we saw week 1, right? He certainly can play much better football than that. All right, go do it, right? This is a Broncos team that low-key has like slight Super Bowl aspirations. They have a Super Bowl caliber defense and a Super Bowl caliber offensive line. Maybe you question the receivers a little bit in the running game, but like, you know, honestly, like the new backs for Denver looks pretty good too. The run game was there. All right, Bo Nix, here you go. Bounce back time against a sneaky, tough Colts defense. One that played pretty well. One that looks well coached under Lou Anarumo. It's not just the vanilla Gus Bradley stuff anymore, right? They're doing weird, complex stuff. The defensive line looks great. The secondary with the new guys looks great. Oh, I go back and forth on this game. I really do. I've been flirting with picking the Colts all week. ESPN's matchup predictor actually slightly favors the Colts. I guess they're at home, right? I'm going to go Denver. I am going to go Denver. I think Knicks will play a little bit better this week. I don't know. I just trust everything about the Denver offensive infrastructure so much. I think Knicks will play better, and if he does, the offense should have a pretty good day, maybe not an amazing day. And I'm still waiting to fully believe it with Daniel Jones, but I don't want to take away what I saw from week 1. I was really impressed with what I saw. He made some great plays. Do it against the Broncos defense, or at least like maybe you don't have to be quite as dominant as you were against the Dolphins and like score 33 points or whatever. But can you look good? Can you look like you belong and you can hang against this Broncos defense? If you can, then things get interesting. And again, it's an interesting AFC South. It's an interesting AFC South. Oh, I'm going to go Broncos by a hair. I'll say Broncos 23, Colts 20. Good game, though. We're going to learn a lot. I'm excited for this one. We're going to learn a lot. If the Colts win, things get very interesting in the AFC South. If you're the Giants, you start to think, uh-oh, right? We've seen it many times now. It is not unreasonable to think that a quarterback who was drafted early to a bad team and had struggles went to a different environment with a better structure around him and played better. We've seen it time and time again now, right? Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold. Could Daniel Jones be next? Very interesting test right here. Very interesting test. Very excited for this game. 4:05 on CBS. We will be watching. Oh, baby. Yeah, that's a good game right there. Broncos versus Colts. I'm going to go Broncos by a hair, though. I think it'll be close. Give me the Broncos. I still think the Broncos are a little bit too good, though. Kira Cat woke up just in time. Let's go. Appreciate it. Would appreciate Bo Nix looking like an NFL player this week. I like to think he'll get a little bit better, right? I mean, we know he has better play in him than what we saw last week. So I don't think he's not going to be a disaster again this week. If he is, then it's like, oh, brother, like what's going on here? But I don't know. I still think like this Denver team overall is a little too good to fail in the sense that like, man, they should still win like 10, 11 games, I think this is one of those wins they'll pick up that could really go a long way towards the ends when they're fighting for playoff position. But Pear Champ says Houston's going 0-2 but winning the division anyways. I mean, they certainly still have the inside track, right? There's a lot to like about this Texans team, but they do have a tough start to the season, don't they? Leowell's saying Danny Dimes is coming into his final form. Vanilla Vic for real. I mean, hey. And I don't remember who, but someone in chat was mentioning, like, he had an all right rookie season. He had an all right 2022 season. It's not like he's objectively horrible and like a complete disaster. I mean, I was parroting this last year when the Vikings signed him. I was like, he's probably one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the NFL, right? Like he probably should at least be starting. Not saying it's good or that like he's a long-term solution or anything, but we've seen crazier things, and, we've seen him play all right before, so I've got my eye on it. But the Browns did get him last year. Yeah, it happens every once in a while, but I have my doubts this week. We'll see. But here's a game that I am still a little excited for, and people were kind of alluding to, like, this could be the game that I was super locked in on. Panthers, Cardinals, and it's an all right matchup, right? I will say this is a game where it's like, all right, Panthers, like, I have been hyping you up a little bit this offseason. Like, you got to look a little better than you did week 1. Otherwise, I'm ready to be like, thank goodness I didn't pick you guys to make the playoffs. Because week 1 was a little rough. You could tell they missed some of their receivers, right? No Thielen, no Coker, no Ike Ekwonu on the offensive line, and the offense just looked stuck. Chuba Hubbard is the truth. The run game is great, but they struggle to throw the ball. A lot of that you can put on Bryce Young. I don't think he had a great game by any means. I don't think he was quite as bad as some people made him out to be either, though. And again, a lot of it just like weird start to the season. You had the delay and everything, but, there's still no Coker, right? There's still no Thielen. Ike Ekwonu was questionable. Getting him back would be huge. I think the biggest thing that really concerned me about the Panthers, though, week 1, more than their struggles on offense, what really concerned me, they couldn't stop the run. And that's one thing that I thought they were going to be miles better at this year. I thought with Derek Brown back and some of the guys they signed up front. I mean, how many times have I said, like, guys, this is unironically a good defensive front? Dude, they looked horrible week one. They got absolutely gashed on the ground. And some of that you can chalk up to some of the improvements that the Jags have made, but also it's not like the Jaguars have been the most prolific rushing attack, right? That was very concerning. And there's no Treshaun Wharton here in week two for the Panthers. Going up against the Cardinals team that can certainly pound it, like the line, like the backs, like the quarterback running too. Yeah, that's a little concerning. Steph is saying Cards. I think I'd have to agree with you. Cards defense looked pretty good week 1 too, which is very encouraging. All the moves that they made. How about a good game from Will Johnson week 1? You guys probably all saw that big hit that he laid on Chris Olave, right? Also had an interception that got called back for kind of a bogus penalty. Will Johnson looked great week 1. He looked like a great pick for the Cardinals. Great value in rounds 2. It's in Arizona. Yeah. I think, man, like if you're the Panthers, like if you're Bryce Young, you got to be ready for the blitz, right? That was the big thing that Bryce really improved on after his benching last season. He got substantially better against the blitz. This is a Cardinals defense that blitzes a lot. Bryce, you got to be better today, right? And Tetairoa McMillan looked pretty good. I think when you're passing, you got to feed McMillan and then try and keep the run game in play, right? Similar like the Jets, you got to keep running on the menu. You can't get down too much. And I do just worry about the Cardinals mashing and then hitting a few big plays through the air. Marv looked pretty good week 1 for the Cardinals too. I think he's going to have a pretty good season. I don't know, man. I like the Panthers a good amount, but the Cardinals are just better right now. They match up pretty well. It's in Arizona. I don't know. It could be a slightly rougher year for the Panthers than I originally anticipated. Maybe they will still finish like third in the division or something, but I'll go Cardinals. I'll say Cardinals 25, Panthers 19. We'll go with a weird score. How about that? Steph is saying Cards as well. Yeah. I feel like most people pick the Cards here. All right. Couple of games left here. We're going to finish up the 4 o'clock window. Then we'll quickly hit the Monday night games too. You know, shout out Ireland, right? We'll hit the Monday night games, or at least we'll hit Bucks Texans. I'm looking at the clock right now. I try and keep these things at about 2 hours. We're going over a little bit. That's fine, right? The games are still like an hour away, but you know, there's a lot to talk about, right? What can you do? What can you do? Leywell has a buddy who played fantasy football for the first time ever last year and has Chuba on his team, fell in love with him, and even bought his jersey. That's so sick. I mean, hey, who isn't in love with Chuba Hubbard? Great back. I don't know. It was 1 week, and he had a really good year last year. He's really starting to entrench himself in like the back end of top 10 running backs in the NFL. He's another guy, like, got paid big money, but boy, he earned it. Good player. He earned it. All right. Here we go. Super Bowl rematch. America's Game of the Week in Arrowhead. Home opener for the Chiefs. It's Chiefs versus Eagles. And what a weird time we live in. Unprecedented territory because the Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid Chiefs are underdogs at home. And honestly, I kind of agree with it. I think Philly's got them in this one. I really do. There are some injuries that the Chiefs are dealing with right now, right? No Xavier Worthy. At least I think he's doubtful. I don't think he's going to play though, right? Was he ruled out at this point? He was ruled out. No Jalen Royals either, right? Already no Rashee Rice either. I mean, really, it's Juju and it's Hollywood Brown. Those are the receivers, right? We're back to having Juju Smith-Schuster be the most trusted receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs, unless you count Hollywood Brown, who did play a pretty good game in Brazil. I will give him that. Man, and I think Jalen Carter is playing, right? He's going to serve his suspension at another time. I'm going to look that up real quick, actually. But I believe Jalen Carter is playing in this game, too. Yep, he's suspended, but he's still playing for Eagles-Chiefs, which is just kind of weird. It's like, okay, that's interesting. Why not just suspend him for this game, right? But I'm telling you, I'm sorry, Leywell. You might want to cover your ears for this. This is not me sounding the alarms on the Chiefs and like, oh, it's over. They're not making the playoffs. This team will never be good again. Of course not, right? There's too much of a track record of the Chiefs like figuring things out and like stabilizing and like making the playoffs and even like going on a little bit of a run. I will say though, I don't know, man. There just are some holes on this roster. And, The receivers being out is one thing, and that's a big concern. Honestly, the biggest thing that really concerns me about this Chiefs team right now is the defense, straight up. Honestly, I don't know. Going into the season, I thought, this is like an average defense. They're going to be average. And there's some good players on the Chiefs defense, but it's not a very deep unit. I don't know, man. It might be slightly below average. Again, maybe this is an overreaction to week 1, but also like the defense wasn't exactly great last year. Like their points allowed and their yards allowed, I think were a bit underinflated or inflated, you know what I mean, is a bit misleading simply because that defense was never on the field because of the way the Chiefs played offense, chewed up clock, right? When they were on the field, honestly, teams were kind of having success on them. On a per drive basis, teams actually were kind of getting theirs on the Chiefs defense a little bit. McDuffie is great. You can pick on the other corners, right? Jalen Watson, I thought he might turn into something. Spags has always had this DB factory. Watson's kind of a problem out there right now. Boy, oh boy, do they miss Justin Reed on defense, right? They just miss having that extra guy in the box that can help defend the run and then drop back in coverage. As nice as Brian Cook might be, I don't know. He and Jaden Hicks, that's a big step down. Chris Jones is like their only trustworthy pass rusher right now, and he's a heck of a player. But man, they just don't really have a whole lot else outside of him right now, right? This is a pretty thin defense that I really think you can get some buckets on. And this Eagles offense is supremely talented. They've got a fantastic offensive line that I think is going to block well for Hurts. And I mean, again, it's just like you're between a rock and a hard place when you play this Eagles offense. The biggest example of this was in the Super Bowl, and I think we're going to see, not quite to the extent of the Super Bowl, but we're going to see something similar today. If you're the Chiefs, what do? Do you sell out and stop Saquon? Okay, that's nice, but now all of a sudden your corners are left on islands against A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and Hurts can throw a nice deep ball, and he'll take those shots downfield. I love McDuffie, and he's a fantastic player, but the truth is, like, he is a bit of a size mismatch on A.J. Brown. Just like, he can only do so much, right? And then if you put him on Devontae, then all of a sudden you've got Jalen Watson on A.J. Brown. You don't feel great about either of those matchups, really, honestly. And if you sell it to stop the pass, they're mashing it on the ground, right? And then on offense, like, again, honestly, I thought Josh Simmons played all right week 1. I thought he played pretty good, and I think he's a big upgrade at left tackle over what they've had last year, right? And I get it's not perfect. You can't always come up with the perfect solution, but it's true to say I think they might have fixed left tackle a little bit, but now they got a problem at left guard. I loved Kingsley Suamataia coming out of the draft. I don't know, man. The clock's ticking on him a little bit. Oh, by the way, go block Jalen Carter, I think the Eagles are the better team. I think they're a tough matchup. Maybe there is some Chiefs voodoo magic. I totally get that, and I think you're honestly valid to say that, Laywell. It's in Arrowhead, and again, we've seen this team figure it out many times before. And Mahomes, honestly, I thought played pretty well week 1. It's certainly not on him. I think the Eagles got this. I really do. I'll say the Eagles by 5. I'll say Eagles 25, Chiefs 20. Chiefs find themselves in an interesting spot starting 0-2. And, as I kind of been saying, like, going into the year. Tough 6 games to not have Rashee Rice is a very, very tough spot to be in if you're the Chiefs right now. They're going to make the playoffs. They'll probably win the division, but I don't know. We'll see. All right. We're going to hit one more game here. My mouth is getting super dry. I'm getting hungry. I'm trying to make lunch and set up for the Sunday action soon, but we'll do this for you, John, out in Ireland. Because again, we'll be going live for Sunday Night Football, Falcons versus Vikings. Super fired up for that one. Hope to see you guys all there. We might even have a special friend tuning in for that. That's what I'll say. We might have a special friend hop on the stream with us. A big Falcons fan. That's what I'll say. You guys will have to stay tuned for that, though. Building up a little bit of suspense, but might be making some more Dr. Pigskin history here. That's what I'll be saying. So we'll preview Vikings-Falcons while we go live for that, going into that game, pregame show, all that stuff. But for my man in Ireland, John, thank you, saying the real MVP. I got you, man. Let's quickly hit Bucks versus Texans Monday Night Football. This is the first of the Monday Night Football doubleheader. I've got mixed feelings about it, whatever. But a pretty good game right here. Matchup between two playoff teams from last year and the year before, actually. Bucks starting 1-0, Texans starting 0-1. Man, the Texans, it really hope that it's not the same story as it was last year, right? Again, good team, lot to like. Lord have mercy, that offensive line is not good. And they just got manhandled week 1. I love CJ Stroud. There's nothing he can do. What could he really do, right? But this defense is nasty as advertised. You like to think they can maybe get Nico Collins going a little bit more here week 2. Kind of a quiet first game for him. Bucks coming off a big emotional win. They were banged up, going on the road against a divisional rival. Beating the Falcons, last second heroics from the Rook, Emeka Egbuka, who looked phenomenal, right? I'm checking the injury report right now because, again, Tampa, super banged up coming into the year. Looks like both Godwin and Wirfs are still out for this one. Christian Izien, Luke Gedeke, and Benjamin Morrison are questionable. All huge contributors. Man, Steph is saying Bucks. I'm going to go Texans here at home. I think, man, Texans with their back against the wall, they need a win. I just really like this coaching staff. I like the defense. This is a great matchup at the line of scrimmage. Good Bucks offensive line. Not great without Wirfs, but still good. But going up against one of the best pass rushes in the league, I think I am going to lean Texans. John is saying Baker didn't play great and the Bucks pulled it out. Need Gedeke to play. Yeah, Baker did kind of have a rough week 1, right? It's just a lot of like missing throws or holding on to the ball too long. I think he certainly has it in him to play better than what we saw last week. And he's still, to his credit, he still made some nice throws, right? Like that second touchdown to Egbuka was just a rip, right? I mean, and the first one too. The first one might have been even better. Like he did have some nice throws in him. I'm interested to see where Derek Stingley is going to be, if he's going to be on Egbuka or Mike Evans more in this one. I think this Texans defense is a real problem, though. And even though it was nice to see Tampa get a little bit more juice out of their pass rush week 1, and the Texans' offensive line is just like a true liability. It really is. I will say it's probably not as good as the Rams. Oh, we're going to learn a lot, right? Again, a lot of overhauls that the Texans have made here on offense. We're going to learn a lot here. Can this offensive line really be better? Can the coaching really be better? There's too much talent on this team, right? Like, it's just such a shame that such a talented team is getting sold so hard by bad offensive line play. But that's kind of what we're seeing. Man, this could be a close game. I think it's going to be a good game. We might see some points in here, but I'll go Texans. I'll say Texans 24, Bucks 20. How about that? Texans 24, Bucks 20. I got the Texans winning this one. They need to, man. Again, starting 0-2. Not a fun spot to be in. But that was the Sunday slate. That was a lot of fun. Man, a lot of football to hit right there, right? But that's the good stuff right there. I love going through game by game, hitting everything, breaking everything down. We're about ready to wrap this show up, but we've got a few more segments to hit here first. We've got the Pigskin Parlay. Not going to lie, we lost last week. Tough, right? Jalen Noel did, in fact, not get as much run as I thought he would. We've got prize picks pulled up here, right? Real DGen hours. Again, I'm gonna read this disclaimer every time, whatever. I just feel better doing this. I'm not promoting gambling. Tail me at your own risk. I'm just playing $5. We're just having a little bit of fun here. We're gonna take the Travis Kelce free space, and we're gonna see if we can win this week, because we did not win last week. Let's see if we can get a little win here. And again, I always like putting this money back into the channel as well. Man, I'm trying to think if there's like any players I like maybe this week. Just scrolling through. But we'll take the Kelce free space. Honestly, Kelce looked okay last week. The coverage bust touchdown, but other than that, there wasn't a whole lot necessarily, right? 71.5 seems like a lot for BTJ. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they really made an effort to get him the ball. That's a lot though. I don't know if there's anyone else that I really like. I know Dr. Gamble, right? I mean, I could have taken Tyler Warren. I could have followed Caden's advice last week and taken Tyler Warren, and I didn't, and then I lost. I like doing fantasy score a lot just because there's a lot of ways that it can add up quickly, you know? Oh, man. None of these are really screaming to me right now. Dare I do Kyle Pitts? Oh, am I going to regret that? Dare I do Kyle Pitts? Where's Kyle Pitts at for fantasy score? I could honestly see him having a big game today. We're going to do Kyle Pitts. And then we'll have something to follow along here for the Sunday night game. What's his line at? 8. Oh, that scares me. Or we could do 32.5 receiving yards. Let's do that. We'll see how this goes. $5. We'll see how this goes. 5 to win 15. Nothing too crazy, but we'll do Kyle Pitts here. All right, that's been turned in. That means we have one thing left here for the Pigskin pregame, the challenge, which I narrowly avoided last week. So for those of you that might have missed the stream last week or tuned out at the end, I found something. Caden and I found something on Instagram here. We saw it last year. We didn't do it, but it's just a little challenge. Something that I might have to do on stream depending on whether the Vikings win or lose. And I very narrowly avoided it this past week, right? We were able to pull out the win. Vikings win. So I avoided having to paint my nails. My nails are still their natural color. But if the Vikings lose this week, I only drink Diet Coke for my caffeine intake. That's what the challenge says. So tell you what, if the Vikings lose, this one's not quite as crazy, but whatever. If the Vikings lose, instead of my coffee next week, I'll have a big old glass of Diet Coke instead. Or maybe to make it real crazy, instead of chocolate milk and coffee, I'll mix Diet Coke and coffee or something foul like that, you know. I'll punish myself a little bit. Low-key, I hope we lose to the Bengals because I could go for some Skyline chili, but don't lose to the Steelers, though. I don't want beans and toast for breakfast. But just something to follow along here. Again, some of these are crazy. We'll see. Maybe I'll have to split the G if we lose to the Browns. I mean, if we lose to the Browns, I'm doing more than just splitting the G, but we'll see. So that's the challenge. We'll see if the Vikings can pull off the win here. Again, said it a million times, but I hope you guys tune in Sunday night as well. Vikings versus Falcons live stream. Garrett asking if I'm going to have Matt Ryan as a special guest. That would be sick. Dare I say it's someone even cooler than Matt Ryan, though. So we'll see. I'll have a slight update for you guys there in a sec. But we'll be going live 8 o'clock Eastern, Vikings versus Falcons. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to week 2 of the Pigskin pregame. I always have a blast doing this. I appreciate you guys waking up, spending your morning with me here. And I hope that you guys go out and enjoy the games here today. We've got an awesome Sunday slate, a lot of great football to be played. Let's learn a little bit today. Let's learn a little bit more about the NFL. Before I go, I do want to give a little housekeeping note. I will not be going live for the Pigskin pregame next week, unfortunately. Christine and I are going to be out of town. We're actually going to Chicago for the weekend. A nice little long weekend trip to Chicago. So pretty excited for that. So unfortunately, that does come at the cost of no Pigskin pregame next week, but we're going to try and resume the regular schedule after that. But appreciate you guys for tuning in. You guys have a great day. You guys have a great Sunday, and hopefully I'll be seeing a lot of you guys here again on Sunday night, and hopefully the Minnesota Vikings can pull off another big victory. But you guys have a great day. Happy Sunday. Happy week 2. Let's learn a little today. Until then, the doctor's out. Let's go.